September 7th. Happy to see everybody in the audience. We're going to start with a roll call, please, or may we?
Mayor Seaman is absent tonight. Mayor Pro Tem Burgell?
Here.
Councilmember Castellano?
Here.
Councilmember Moulton?
Here.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Here.
Councilmember Bauer?
Here.
Thank you. Would you please join me, if you'd like to, in the Pledge of Allegiance? There it is. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. And is there a report out of closed session, City Attorney Black?
Mayor, there are no reportable actions taken in closed session.
Thank you. Okay, mayor's announcements. We do have a couple of proclamations this evening, and I have asked Councilmember Arroyo to please read the proclamation for National Hispanic Month. Thank you.
Great. So I do want to note before I read this that, different community members who identify as Hispanic or Latino or Latinx use different terms, but this is a national ongoing recognition since the 60s. And so the term Hispanic is used in this proclamation. So this is in recognition of National Hispanic Heritage Month, which is September 15th through October 15th, 2021. Whereas Hispanic people represent a vibrant, thriving part of our diverse nation, their histories and cultures stretch across centuries and continue to add new chapters in our national story. And whereas this month we honor the rich heritage of the Hispanic community and celebrate its countless achievements. And whereas this year's theme, Esperanza, a celebration of Hispanic heritage and hope, invites us to celebrate Hispanic heritage and to reflect on how great our tomorrow can be if we hold on to resilience and hope. It encourages us to reflect on all of the contributions Hispanics have made in the past and will continue to make in the future. And whereas Hispanics have served honorably in our armed forces, defending the values we hold dear, and they have transformed industries with new innovative ideas, they've led and inspired movements that have made our nation more equal and more just. And whereas America has always drawn its strength from the contributions of diverse people throughout our nation, Hispanics are advancing our economy, improving our communities, and bettering our country. Now, therefore, I, Natalia Arroyo, on behalf of the Eureka City Council, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th, 2021 as National Hispanic Heritage Month and urge the Eureka community to observe this month with appropriate ceremonies and activities. And we have a group, LatinoNet, who provided some comments. They were not able to be here to receive this proclamation, but I'll read into the record the comments from their current president. Thank you, Mayor Seaman and Eureka City Council members. As the president of LatinoNet, it is my pleasure to accept the City of Eureka's proclamation for National Hispanic Month. We appreciate the gesture to acknowledge the contributions made by Hispanic Latinx people to our country and to our community. The Latino Community Providers Network, LatinoNet, was created in 2000 as a community hub to address the unique experiences of our diverse Latinx community. LatinoNet works to improve the quality of life for Spanish-speaking families of Humboldt County and surrounding territories through networking, information sharing, collaboration, and advocacy. Our mission involves providing accurate and culturally appropriate expertise while partnering with other Latinx serving organizations to strengthen community resilience. LatinoNet sends our gratitude and appreciation for our community. Sincerely, Ingrid Beja Rodriguez, LatinoNet President.
Thank you so much. And now we're going to move on to our next proclamation. But before we do that, we are going to have the proclamation will be about Neighborhood Beautification Month. We'll have a presentation by our own Robin Pretzker.
Thank you, Councilmember Burgell. So good evening, all of council and, well, Mayor. Mayor's not here tonight though, but hello to her anyways. So we're so excited to be here tonight to officially launch the brand new city program, the Neighborhood Beautification Program. So we're doing so by declaring September as Neighborhood Beautification Month, which is in line with two other September events, Good Neighbor Week, which we've been recognizing for a while now, and National and Global Cleanup Day. CNA's Pack Out Green team has been beautifying not only neighborhoods, but entire cities since 2014. It only felt appropriate to invite them to accept this proclamation tonight. But before Councilmember Bergel gets to that, I do want to share the details of this brand new program. So as you all know, neighborhood beautification was a big priority for this council's visioning. It came out of you guys, and it's no surprise why. Connecting neighbors and neighborhoods for a common goal helps build our community's connections. It strengthens the fabric of our neighborhoods and helps contribute to pride as we improve these public spaces. The program's development and launch has actually been an interdepartmental effort between community services and public works. And the way the program works is that the city will provide all the supplies and support for volunteers to host beautification efforts in their neighborhoods or other neighborhoods. And it would typically include litter pickup, weeding gutters, and other city landscaping or street trees that need maintenance. We have all the supplies needed for these efforts, and we can help promote volunteer events with lawn signs, door hangers, online promotions. But our hope is that we can get volunteer community coordinators to sign up and rally and organize these efforts within their neighborhoods. The goal being to establish groups who hold regular volunteer opportunities, though we welcome one-time events as well. We basically provide the logistics and supplies, and we just need our volunteers to bring the people power. So we did pilot this over the summer on West Wabash to help us develop the program and work out any kinks. We held 2 volunteer events consisting of litter pickup, weeding, and planting within the bases of many of the beautiful trees along Wabash. Councilmember Castellano and I actually happen to be neighbors and live right off West Wabash. And we truly did meet our neighbors we had never met, and the reception was so positive and wholesome. We even received support from Express Employment and Pearson's, making it a true community effort. And as of tonight, applications are officially open for folks who want to sign up to do good. Applications are available at empowereureka.org, or for a digital application, or hard copies can be picked up at City Hall. The only requirements to coordinate volunteer events is to be 18 and older. Otherwise, we will meet with applicants, understand the goals for the neighborhood, and work with them to make it happen. Before I share a quick promotional video we made for the program, I do want to invite Erin from Public Works, who's been working on this, to share a few more thoughts about how valuable this new program is for our city.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to say we really look forward to increased community awareness and involvement in protecting our bay, waterways, and critters through cleaning up our streets, storm drains, and enhancing local vegetation. The city will be leading by example and empowering our own city staff to celebrate this month by hosting a rally at City Hall and other city facilities to celebrate National Cleanup Day by beautifying around City Hall on September 17th. We are working on getting info out to city staff this week and think it will be a great way to show the city's internal investment in beautification efforts. And we really look forward to your involvement. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Erin. So I just was going to play our brief video, and then I was going to hand it back to Councilmember Bergel to keep us going on the proclamation route. So I think I should be able to share screen. Yes, I can. So I'll have my volume turned all the way up. I do know sometimes sharing videos over Zoom can kind of reach people differently, so definitely turn up your volume if you don't hear any talking. So I'm going to go ahead and press play. So at the most recent strategic visioning, the City Council really prioritized neighborhood beautification, strengthening the ties in our neighborhoods. And the best way to do that is to get neighbors out in the neighborhood, working together, beautifying our spaces and taking pride. West Wabash is our pilot, and it's just been a joy starting, and the reception from our neighbors and greater community has just been fantastic. You know, they've got all the stuff you need. They have tools, they have buckets, they have people you can meet.
You know, I certainly have noticed that there's a lot of trash that accumulates in this neighborhood, and it's just nice to have a productive morning, picking some of it up.
And with that, I will hand it back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin and Aaron. And thank you, Councilmember Castellano, for all your great work. And so with that, if you would be willing to read the Neighborhood Beautification Proclamation. And I do believe I see JC and Chris here. Are you guys the ones that are receiving that proclamation? Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Sure thing. And just before I read it, I just want to say a little something about that. There's so many like individual people who do so much beautification in our community, and you know, JC and Chris, I just appreciate all of your efforts, as well as, you know, Aaron and Heidi Benzanelli and Julie Fulkerson, Michelle McKeegan, and Keep Eureka Beautiful, and the trail stewards, you know, Bernadette Veal, but, you know, they're just people, Stan Wong, you just see them out everywhere doing like amazing things for our community. And I have so much appreciation for all of you. And with that, in recognition of Eureka Neighborhood Beautification Month as September 2021, whereas the City of Eureka recognizes that maintaining and beautifying neighborhood areas is an effective means to reduce pollution, improve stormwater quality, increase physical activity, enhance community areas, and increase sense of community pride. And whereas community participation is part of the solution for addressing pollution, limiting climate change, and improving public health. And whereas beautifying neighborhoods promotes a sense of community, contributing to feelings of safety and security, along with feeling healthier and happier. Whereas for both health and environmental reasons, the city highly values neighborhood beautification efforts that encourage and reward litter pickup, landscaping maintenance and enhancement, which are accomplished by community-powered volunteers. And whereas in cooperation with Good Neighbor Week and National Cleanup Day, the City of Eureka recognizes neighborhood beautification as a way to strengthen neighborhood communities through cleaning up the world. And whereas September 17th will be celebrated as Neighborhood Beautification Day in Eureka with a 11:30 trash pickup rally at City Hall. And whereas the month of September is Neighborhood Beautification Month, which promotes community maintenance as a means of environmentally and aesthetically enhancing our city and strengthening our community. And therefore I, Leslie Castellano, on behalf of the Eureka City Council, do hereby proclaim September 2021 as a time to promote neighborhood beautification throughout Eureka and urge all citizens to participate in and support community cleanups. And JC and Chris, if y'all have anything to say, we definitely invite you to come on up.
Awesome. Just thank you for recognizing the work that we and so many others do in the community. Litter pickup is just one, sorry for my dog. Litter pickup is just one small part of, you know, efforts that everyone is doing to contribute to making Eureka a little bit better. So we really appreciate the recognition.
Same, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And everybody who's put in their hard work and time.
Thank you so much. You guys do great work. So now we'll move on to public comment period. This is the time for members of the public who wish to be heard on matters that do not appear on the agenda. City Council policy is to limit each speaker to 3 minutes. Such time allotment or portion thereof shall not be transferred to other speakers. Members of the public wishing to address the council may submit a speaker card to the city clerk and proceed. Oh, that's changed, hasn't it? Let's see. The public will be allowed to speak concurrently with the calling of an agenda item following the staff presentation of that item. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. So, and we also will be taking 30 minutes of public comment in the beginning.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, we have, I have not had a request by anyone to speak during public comment.
I would like to speak.
But yeah, we can take raised hands right now. So I believe Brian has raised his hand.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for having the meeting. This is great to let us all talk about everything. I'm talking today about the mask mandates of Eureka, and I just wrote a little speech, so I'm going to read it to you guys. I'll just take my video off so that you can concentrate on my speech a little bit more. Okay, so my name is Brian. I have been a citizen of Humboldt County for over 20 years. I love this county. I love Eureka, and I am not okay with the mask and lockdown mandates in Eureka that have unnecessarily brought this town in a downward spiral since May 2020. So I am here to do something about it. The Eureka mask mandates. Actually, I'll turn my video on. Why not? It'll wobble a little, but hey. The Eureka mask mandates are predicated on the belief that COVID tests are accurate. City of Eureka, you have now been officially put on notice for the following questions that I have for you guys. Number one, explain to us exactly how COVID tests for COVID. Do these tests lump all the flus together and call them all COVID? I suspect this is the case because I did some research, and the way that COVID tests work is they say you have COVID if your test swab glows green when mixed with some chemicals. They're not looking at the molecule under a microscope. They're just saying we all have COVID if the test swab glows green. So I need you guys to explain the details of how COVID testing works and how accurate are these COVID tests, because they've also been proven to have up to a 50% false negatives. Number three, city, provide the citizens of Eureka with peer-reviewed scientific studies that show that masks significantly reduce the spread of coronavirus enough to justify the unlawful requiring of masks in order to shop. These mandates are closing businesses in Eureka due to not as many customers shopping, not to mention there are numerous health and psychological effects of wearing masks, especially for those people with disabilities. To summarize, the city of Eureka needs to quantify the benefits and the detriments of mandating masks with a cost-benefit analysis equation. City, can you email me the answers to all these questions at redwoodrivercottage@gmail.com? Today, I am starting a petition to end mask mandates in the city of Eureka. Together, we will rise in one voice and end mask mandates with the petition. You can email me at redwoodrivercottage@gmail.com for more info about this petition. Anyone can do that. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Brian. I don't see any hands. Do you? Yeah.
No, Mayor.
I have one more thing, you guys.
I'm sorry, your 3 minutes are up, Brian.
It's very hard
you need to mute, Brian.
You can't get to these meetings. That's why no one has anything to say, because you guys make it.
Brian, thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak during public comment who has not spoken? No one has raised their hand, Mayor.
Great. Seeing no one, we'll move on to our first public hearing. And I'd like to call on Principal Planner Getz.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Our Senior Planner, Caitlin Castellano, is going to present this to you this evening.
Great, thank you.
Hi, great, thank you. Share my screen. Okay. Good evening, council members, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. The project before you for your final consideration tonight is the Cook and Callison Alley vacation. Here is a bird's eye view of where the proposed alley vacation is located in context of the city limits. Here we are zooming in. The subject alley is south of Harris Street and west of Sequoia Park. The proposed portion of the alley to be vacated is located in the southernmost portion of an alley between L Street, which is to the west, M Street to the east, and Bryant Street to the north, and Manzanita Avenue to the south. Here we are zooming in even closer. The portion of alley to be vacated is 20 by 60 feet and is 120 square feet in size. The exact location is between two single-family residential properties known as 113 Manzanita Avenue and 3484 M Street. The vacation will enlarge the back and rear portions of the parcel.
They could hear the.
You guys, FYI, Steve is muted and would like to give his.
Public comment is now over, Brian. And you've had
Steve's
your
muted
3
and he
minutes
wants
for
to give his 3
sharing.
minutes,
Thank
but he
you.
can't because you
So if
muted
you'd
him.
go ahead and mute, please, that would be helpful. We're in the middle of a presentation. You can certainly give any of us a call after the meeting. We'd be happy to talk to you.
Steve just got muted against his will and needs his 3 minutes to speak. Please stop muting me and unmute Steve. Thank you.
So as required by City Policy 4.02 and Streets and Highway Code Section 8300, as well as California Government
That's okay. I'm
Code
going to start a
Section
petition. This is Warren Allen.
65402, at the August 3rd City Council meeting, Council received the Planning Commission's recommendation to vacate the subject alley with conditions, found the subject alley is unnecessary for present or prospective use, and declared its intention to order the vacation of the subject alley with recommended conditions by adopting a resolution of intention, which directed the city clerk to give notice of this public hearing and directed Public Works Engineering to post to the portion of the alley to be vacated in accordance with state law. And both of these tasks have been completed. So just briefly, as previously discussed, at the last council, well, the August 3rd council meeting, the local tribal historic preservation officers, known as TIPOs, requested the project be conditioned with the city's inadvertent discovery protocol for cultural and historical artifacts in the event of future ground disturbing activities in the vacated area. And as a result of a request from a neighbor, the applicant will be required to install a fence or a gate in the alley as a barrier instead of a cable, which was previously used, to the north end of the portion of the alley being vacated in order to decrease accidents that may occur in the alley. So the purpose of this hearing is to receive testimony from all persons interested in or objecting to the proposed vacation, and to order the street vacation by adopting a resolution of the City Council of the City of Eureka ordering the vacation of the southern 60-foot wide portion of the City of Eureka Alley located between L and M Streets and Manzanita Avenue and Bryant Streets between 113 Manzanita Avenue and 3484 M Street. Here is your suggested motion, and I am available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from council? Okay, seeing no one. At this time, I will open the public hearing. Would anyone like to address the council regarding this item? I don't see any hands, Pam. Oh. Latanya, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I just was saying that the person to contact is the one who's speaking, Kristen Gotez. So if I have any questions or concerns,
or Caitlin Castellano.
Or Caitlin. Okay, so I will get her email and direct it to them directly. Thank you.
Thank you, Latanya. I don't see any other hands. So there's no further comment. I'll close the public hearing. Council, do we have any discussion or do we have a motion? Councilmember Arroyo?
I would like to make the motion, but I just want to clarify. Do I need to read the entirety of it? Or can I just?
On this
Okay.
On this one, you can just do staff recommendations. Sorry.
I move staff recommendation. Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. And do we do a roll call vote?
Yes. Sorry, I have a lot going on. Let's see. Councilmember Castellano.
Aye.
Councilmember Moulton.
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo.
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer.
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell.
Yes.
Unanimous yes vote. Motion carries.
So moving on to our next public hearing. Can we have, is this one you? No, this is Gabriel, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. If you'd be willing to give a report.
Sure. Good evening, council members, Mayor Pro Tem. My name is Gabriel Adami. I'm the Infiltration and Inflow Manager for the Public Works Department. Bring to you tonight for your consideration the summary vacation of an easement on Allard Avenue. Let me just go ahead and share my screen here. So I bring tonight the summary vacation of an easement located at the end of Allard Avenue, adjacent to Broadway. Some background on the easement itself. It was in 1995, an easement was dedicated to the city of Eureka by Ralph and Kathleen Rice for the purpose of construction, reconstruction, maintenance of water lines, and all purposes incidental thereto. Since then, no infrastructure was ever installed or improvements made upon the property or below grade within the easement. In 2020, the College of the Redwoods approached the city about purchasing and developing this property. It was determined that the vacation of the easement would be necessary to maximize the development of the land. The property was then purchased by CR, and they have asked that we vacate the easement to allow for their development. You can see here the proposed location is at the end of Allard Street. There's a retaining wall between it and Broadway, so it's adjacent to but not actually touching or connected at all to Broadway. And next to it, you see the map of the proposed abandonment. Project was referred in 2020 for development review and just recently applied in 2021 for the easement vacation. The summary vacation procedure, City of Eureka's policies and procedures, file 402 regarding the vacation of a city, street, alley, or easement. Section 3, summary easement vacation, allows the city to summarily vacate a city easement if the easement has not been used for the purpose for which it was dedicated or acquired for 5 consecutive years immediately preceding the proposed vacation. It has not been used during any of the time that we've had the easement, and the applicant has supplied all of the supporting documents requested and paid all applicable fees for the vacation of the easement. The effects of the vacation will really only be affecting the current property owner, which is College of the Redwoods. Will have no effect on the public or public utilities, etc. A referral was sent to local agencies and property owners situated within 300 feet of the affected parcel. No objections were returned in regards to the vacation of the easement. Vacating this easement will allow for the increased value to the city of Eureka by adding to the supply of market rate and affordable housing. Will also assist in creating strong collaborative relationships with partner organizations and community. Utilities in the area, there's no city-owned water, sewer, or storm drain utilities installed in this location. Additionally, franchise utilities were notified of the easement vacation and no objections were returned. Caltrans does have a separate easement on this parcel, but this vacation will not have any effect on their easement. Staff recommendation is to determine the easement to be surplus, to determine that vacating the easement will have a cost neutral or positive financial benefit to the city, and order the vacation of the easement by adopting a resolution of the Council of the City of Eureka ordering the Allard Avenue easement vacation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Infiltration and Inflow Manager Adami. At this time, do we have any questions or comments questions from staff or council? Councilmember Moulton?
They will increase the inventory of affordable housing. Is that what CR plans to do with the location? Can you give us any details about that?
Correct. Their intent is to subdivide the parcel into 4 smaller parcels in which I believe they have their housing construction program that they will build smaller houses on the lot and really get a good amount of affordable housing into the area. That's my understanding, at least.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll open this public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to comment on this item? Latanya?
I just wanted to know, could you tell me the square footage of the area of the housing, each houses?
So Latanya,
We don't have that information as of yet, sorry.
And during comment period, Latanya, we don't ask questions, but you can comment as much as you like.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
When you speak of affordable housing, I just wanted to, my comment would be, can I give a comment?
Absolutely.
My comment is housing that is not small. When you say small, I'm hoping not as like the tin cans that they have near Washington and another place near Wabash in Eureka. And preferably when considering housing as far as low income, if you can keep in consideration those who are purchasing homes for a family of 4 with adequate spacing, security, and just as if they were purchasing a home in a affluent neighborhood. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Latanya. Are there any other hands up? Okay, so there is no more further comment. I'll close the public hearing. Council, any discussion or do we have a motion? Councilmember Arroyo?
I just wanted to note I've been following the rebuilding and then addition of a new unit on a different property by the College of the Redwoods construction technology department, and they've just done a phenomenal job. Really beautiful, like state-of-the-art housing. So if that's any indication, I mean, this is really about teaching their students like how to build really wonderful housing. It does seem like on this lot that it will be housing that is smaller, but certainly with nice amenities for people. So I'm really excited that they want to do this. And I know this isn't about that, like what specific project they're going to put on the lot, but they did put in their application that's in our packet that they want to subdivide the parcel into 4 lots for their construction technology program. So I think it's really exciting. And I'll let someone else make the motion, but I just wanted to note that.
Thank you.
No one will. I'd like to make the motion. It's in my neighborhood or my ward.
Please do.
Isn't it? I thought it was. Well, I'll make the motion anyway. Can I move staff recommendation?
Yes, you may.
Okay, I move staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Thank you.
I thought it was in your ward too.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote?
Alrighty. Councilmember Castellano.
Aye.
Councilmember Moulton.
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo.
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer.
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell.
Yes.
Unanimous yes vote. Motion carries.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So now we'll move on to the consent calendar. Read all matters listed under this category are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted in one motion unless a specific request is made by a council member. The consent calendar will not be read. There'll be no separate discussion of these items. However, if discussion is required, that item will be removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. So it looks like we have B6 is pulled. Is that? And does anyone have any
B5.
other? Is it B5?
I believe that's B5.
Yeah.
B5. Great. And does anyone else have anything else to pull? Okay. So can we get a motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Great. Anyone please vote? Or can we get a vote? I'm sorry, this moving on to Zoom is really, it's awkward.
Sure. Councilmember Castellano.
Aye.
Councilmember Moulton.
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo.
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer.
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell.
Yes.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
Okay, so item B5, I believe we're going to have a report from Human Resources Director Folger.
I believe I'll take that one, Mayor Pro Tem Burgell. So yes, this item here is related to our unrepresented group of employees, the management group of employees that aren't represented, like the bargaining groups, ECEA and EPOA. There was a decision made to provide increases similar to the bargaining groups for this group of employees, and the way that staff structured it was similar to how ECEA was structured, in the sense that we just took a lower ratio because these employees weren't getting the same amount of increases, so we lowered the increases and spread them out over the same period of time. And so this item here is to approve those increases for our unrepresented employees, and if it has to be done by resolution. And so if there's any questions, staff is available to answer them.
Councilmember Bauer?
A couple of questions. I know City Manager Slattery, you said it follows the ECEA schedule, but my understanding was it was, yeah, so I guess it does, but the amounts are, I think as far as that period of time, the percentages are really low, and in the interest of fairness, for hardworking city staff, I would like to see it accelerated, and maybe you can let me know what kind of costs are associated if we, advance everything forward slightly, if that makes any sense.
So yeah, you're correct. Obviously ECEA represented employees received a 15% increase over the term of this agreement. Those increases came, as of July 1 of this year, then January of 2022, January of 2023, and January of 2024. Obviously, these unrepresented employees did not receive the same type of increases. So let's say an employee who received a 6% increase, it was spread over that same period of time, and it would be, I believe it was a 1% retroactive to July 1, another 1% in January 2022, and then 2% in 2023 and 2% in 2024. So it was same time frame of increases, but obviously a lot less of an increase. One thing that could happen is that we could follow the same framework that ECEA has currently, and have their raises terminate before the end of the 3-year term. So let's say that same person was 6%, you could say 2% retroactive to July 1, similar to the same 2% as ECA gets, then a 3% increase in January of 2022, which is the same as ECEA, and then the remainder of that coming the following January 2023, which would be 1%, and then there'd be no increase in 2024. So if we did that across the board with these unrepresented employees, the overall costs throughout the term of the MOU, which would go through, January of 2024, the overall cost to the city as a whole would be approximately $130,000. To our general fund, it would be approximately $100,000. So that would be the cost difference over the term of this entire agreement, which is based on the term of the ECEA and EPOA agreements.
Well, thanks for that. I mean, given inflation, given what some of the other groups are getting, I would prefer, or I guess I would make a motion that we go, 1% retroactive, 3%, and then 2%, and not having a raise in 2024.
So yeah, that would, just to be clear, there's varying percentage increases. So let's say the director level is 10%. The director level would be 2% retroactive to July of 2021, 3% January 2022, 5% January 2023, and then that would complete their 10%. So the idea would be following the same percentages up until the point of those percentages being exhausted.
That's what I would motion and look for others or what they think.
Councilmember Moulton?
I'm sorry, could you say again, what is the fiscal impact then of the percentages coming on sooner?
So for the term of the agreement, which would go through January of 2024, so approximately 3 years, I think it will go to the fiscal year of 20, so it'd be fiscal year 2024, 2025, which would be June 30th of 2024. The total cost throughout the term would be $130,000 approximately. For all of our employees. That includes enterprise funds as well as the general fund. And then the general fund costs would be a little bit under $100,000.
That's what the numbers that Councilmember Bauer is suggesting?
Yes.
What's the difference?
That's the difference. So if we went what's in the agenda summary, yeah.
Go ahead.
If we went with what's in the agenda summary, it would be what has been proposed. If we went with Councilmember Bauer's suggesting, it would cost that amount. It would cost $133,000 over this term, overall for the city, and $100,000 to the general fund.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none at this time, we'll open it up to public comment. Latanya?
Excuse me, I just want to make sure I'm following what's going on, what's being said. The unrepresented employees, these are not low income. These are like execs, people on the A payroll, right? And so it's in terms of whether or not they get whatever increase they're going to get. I'm not belittling it in no means, but to get it sooner than what's being allocated, how would that be like detrimental to is this the government's bottom line? So I'm just wondering, when the IRS code put in requirements or limits for people like execs, this is an example, getting parachute payments, like if they leave the company, termination, instead of giving the lump sum when they leave, it's over a certain period of time. The thinking behind that, is that the reason why the thinking that went into the allocation schedule that's in place? That's what I'm wondering. To not take away from the company or the government or the employer's fiscal bottom line, not to deplete the funds that's available. That's what I'm wondering. That's my question now.
Thank you. And Latanya, if you'd be willing to put those in an email, we always appreciate getting your emails. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to comment on this issue? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for comments or a motion. Councilmember Bauer?
Yeah, I don't know how I would make that motion other than to say to accelerate the raises, per staff discussion. I mean, it's variable, right? So depending on the position, I just think it's interest of fairness, these people, just like many other staff have been, it's been a long time of getting people raises. And I think given inflation, and essentially fairness, I'd like to see that accelerated. And I don't think the cost is anything extravagant to the city. So I don't know how to make that recommendation other than to say accelerate based off of what we discussed.
So Assistant City Manager Powell, do you have any ideas for how he could bring that forward, or is that sufficient?
I went ahead and put to accelerate implementation to reflect the same percentage as ECEA. I believe that is the intent. And so that is captured in the motion.
Do we have a second? Further discussion? Councilmember Castellano?
Thank you, Councilmember Bauer, for bringing that forward. I do support going ahead if that makes it more equitable, for staff. I definitely appreciate the work that everyone's been doing through this time. I do also, and really our staff are the people who are like doing the work for the citizens. So, if this kind of just supports that work getting done and people, staying with the city for longer, I think that that's an important move.
So we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Councilmember Castellano?
Aye.
Councilmember Moulton?
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer?
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell?
Yes.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
So moving on to ordinances and resolutions, we have item C1, and I'm going to take a stab at it. Principal Planner Getz? Is that you giving us the report?
I think I'm the cable franchise person. So
Oh, you are. I'm sorry, I was looking at C2.
No worries.
Okay.
Alrighty. So this is really a bookkeeping issue for for our cable franchise. We work with Access Humboldt, and they act as a clearinghouse kind of for all of the cities in the county of Humboldt, and they have a consultant. Whenever our franchise expires and we need to renew, they work to hopefully get the best deal for all of the entities involved in this. So what we need to do for tonight is introduce the ordinance, and it's a change that will update the ordinance that allows us. It's not intended to impose a new or an increased fee, but rather it's to reauthorize the already existing PEG fees to the same level without an end date. We currently had an expiration in the ordinance, and this allows it to move forward and continue to collect the same fee. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Assistant City Manager Powell? No? Okay, we'll open this item to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to comment on this item? Latanya?
Excuse me, far be it from me. I'm just trying to make sure I understand this. This is just for like businesses, or is this for everybody in the city or the city of Eureka? As who utilize that particular franchise, or any cable? And I'm thinking this has to do with TV or internet. I'm just trying to follow here.
So Latanya, I believe this is just a renewal. This is just a housekeeping issue. And usually we don't ask questions during public comment, but please feel free to reach out or email us.
Okay, sure. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Is that correct, Pam? I mean, City Manager Powell?
Yes. So the cable franchise would be for any live cable broadcast. It does not cover our internet that's provided by our local cable provider. It is in the public access. The PEG fees cover the costs to allow for Access Humboldt to operate in the city of Eureka and the public to be able to broadcast through the cable network system. It also broadcasts all of the public meetings in the county of Humboldt. And so this allows that fee to continue to be collected. The ratepayers do pay a portion of that, and it's a 1.45% of what they pay to cable comes to the city of Eureka or to the public entities.
Thank you. So is there anyone else who'd like to comment on this issue?
Cell phones included?
So again, Latanya, I'm sorry, but we don't ask questions during public comment. I tried to get you some clarification. If you'd be willing to send an email, we could get more detail for you. Appreciate that. I'm glad you're here. Keep us on our toes. Okay, so if there's no further comment, we'll bring it back to council for comments or a motion. Councilmember Castellano?
I'll make some comments, then I'll also make the motion. I just appreciate this, though it is a matter of doing business. This fee, collected from the ratepayers does go to kind of fund greater public access to local programming, right? A lot of the programming produced by Access Humboldt, including airing public meetings and things like that, comes from this fee. It will be interesting to see, as fewer people subscribe to cable, how that fee changes or how it changes over time as the amount that, right? Because it's a percentage of people who subscribe to cable, and with the internet, fewer people subscribe to that, and so over time, there's less money that goes into that pool. So it'll just be kind of interesting to see how that moves forth in the future. But I completely support this. And with that being said, I waive full reading and read by title only and introduce bill number 1005-CS, an ordinance of the city of Eureka adding section 114.63.b.5 to title 11, chapter 114, public educational and government access channel capacity support, interconnection, and signal carriage.
Well, second. And I wanted to ask, not to put you on the spot, but I see that Sean is here in the audience. I was wondering if you'd like to add any comments about, I know it's a little bit of a wonky requirement that we pass this. I was wondering if you would, I always just really appreciate what you have to say about these things, if you would like to elaborate at all.
Sure, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I think for us, this is an ongoing relationship that the operator and owner of the cable TV system has with the local governments. And it's reflected through the State Digital Infrastructure Video Competition Act, or DIVCA. And the original license was for a 10-year term. So we had put it on our calendars to be actually a few years from now. But what happened was Altice, the owner of the cable system here, also owns other cable systems in California that had an earlier date, and they merged our franchises with the other franchises in California, and that pulled the date up a little earlier. But I think Pam described very well exactly what's going on here, and I want to thank the city for her service on our board. She's designated to represent all the cities in the county and serves on Access Humboldt's board. So we do try to make sure she's well informed of what we're up to, and she keeps an eye on our activities. But so this housekeeping measure, though, is kind of the tip of the iceberg. I appreciate you asking me, Natalie, because Altice the complaints that we get and the concerns that people express have a lot more to do with the internet service that they want from the same company using the same infrastructure that, because of policy decisions at the state level, are not in the control of you folks. I mean, you used to be able to negotiate the franchise and you could have required them to do a lot more than they do. But that authority was taken away under DIVCA. And so what we've been fighting for ever since is reclaiming some local jurisdiction here. And while this is a housekeeping measure, it points to the fact that they are getting their license renewed, so for another 10 years at the state level, and that we are still fighting for some jurisdiction at the local level. There does happen to be, I know it's not on your agenda, but there is relevant legislation in SB 28 that's pending right now that would in a very small way, give some more information and opportunity for people to get back to the cable company with their concerns. So we are supporting that legislation. Anyway, sorry, I went a little off topic, but thank you for the question.
I really appreciate it. Actually, I was just about to ask if there was anything else we could do to kind of, address that issue that you mentioned that's related, but not exactly the purpose of this. So I'd love to hear more about that if you're willing to follow up with us directly.
Absolutely, and I'll be happy to do that. I won't take your time now, but there is more happening. The other jurisdictions in Truckee and Tahoe area have filed a letter with the PUC and initiated a class action lawsuit actually against Altice. So that might be something that I will give you more information about.
Absolutely. Yeah, this topic of how people get information and like it becoming in some ways harder and harder for that to be fair and equitable is really, it's important stuff. So thank you.
Thank you for being here, Sean. So we have a motion and a second. So could we have a roll call vote, please? If there is no further discussion, any further discussion?
Yes, and thank you to Director McLaughlin. I did not see him as I gave my report, or I would have totally deferred to him. He is so the expert. So thank you again, Sean. So Councilmember Castellano?
Aye.
Councilmember Moulton?
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer?
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell?
Yes.
Unanimous yes vote. Motion carries.
Okay. Moving on to C2 with Principal Planner Kristen Getz.
Good morning.
Report, please.
Thank you, and good evening again, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. The text amendment for the SC Zone metal shipping containers is back before you tonight for adoption. And based on Council's discussion at the August 17th meeting, the code sections were reorganized a bit. So staff created a paragraph G, George, which contains the standards that apply to all shipping containers. And that would also continue to be effective even after the SC Zone shipping container language expires. Staff then added paragraph H, Henry, which has the standards that apply only to the metal shipping containers in the SC Zone and includes the language to allow public art and codifies that the language allowing the shipping containers as permanent storage in the SC Zone will actually expire in 10 years. And further, it states that the containers must either be removed or will be regulated under the non-conforming section of the code. I have a slide with the suggested motion if you'd like, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Principal Planner Getz? Seeing none, we will open up the public comments. Anybody that would like to comment on this item? Latanya?
I just wanted to let Mrs. Cortez know that I'll send an email to her with my questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Latanya. I don't see any other hands, so we'll bring it back to council for a motion or more comments.
I'll make a motion, and thank you, Principal Planner Getz, for your work on this and for, taking our commentary from last time and incorporating. Make a motion to waive full reading and read by title only and adopt Bill number 998-CS, an ordinance of the City of Eureka amending Eureka Municipal Code 1, Chapter 155 pertaining to metal shipping containers.
Councilmember Moulton?
I guess I should make a comment to explain I'm going to vote against this again because I fundamentally don't think that shipping containers should be allowed as permanent storage in the service commercial zone. I think it's unattractive. I know where the vote is going because we've been here before, but I thought I should explain that because I'm about to vote no.
Any other comments? Oh, we don't have a second yet, do we? Councilmember Arroyo.
I'll second, and they're not the best. I would agree. It's not my ideal situation, but today, as part of a 2x2 discussion with some representatives from the Eureka Chamber, the topic of there being limited warehouse space in Eureka came up. And I was really thinking about that a lot today as we were approaching this vote, and just how much at a premium that is for people in the community. And so with that in mind, I will second this and I'm supportive of it, but it's, I hear you. It's not the ideal situation for long-term storage or use. I think some of the changes that all of you have recommended are going to be an improvement, but I agree that it's not ideal. But anyway, ready for a vote.
So if there are no more comments, we will have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Castellano?
Aye.
Councilmember Moulton?
Nay.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer?
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell?
Yes.
4 yes votes. Councilmember Moulton dissenting. Motion carries.
Great. Moving on to C3, Deputy Community Services Director, Jeff Ramey.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I'd like to again introduce the proposed amendment to the Harbor Regulations section of the Municipal Code, Section 100.14, regarding vessel speed. To summarize, the inner reach portion of Humboldt Bay, encompassing the tidelands and waterways along the Eureka waterfront, is heavily used by recreational and commercial vessels. Staff has witnessed an increase in the property damage and a possibility of injuries due to inappropriate vessel speed that's been displayed. The existing municipal code utilizes the language of nautical speed and is confusing to some boaters. In essence, a vessel traveling at 3 nautical miles per hour can still create a wake that causes damage and potential injuries to those who are working and recreating along the Eureka waterfront. Due to these increased incidents of inappropriate vessel speed throughout the inner reach channel of Humboldt Bay, staff recommends a change to the Eureka Municipal Code Section 100.14 to increase the safety of participants of recreational and commercial boating. And have a map to share this time. And this map is depictive of the Eureka Inner Reach channel along the Eureka waterfront. As you can see, Woodley Island in reference there. So this would does a couple of things. It removes the language of the nautical miles per hour, as we just mentioned, and replaces with the language of no noticeable wake. And it also extends the affected zone, which is depicted here, to include the waterways from the southern section of the Samoa Bridge, extending to the westernmost extension of the Eureka Public Marina, depicted on this end, and then the eastern side there. Let's see. This has been supported by the Humboldt Bay Harbor Safety Committee, the Humboldt Bay Harbor District, and multiple businesses and residents who live as well as operate their businesses in and along the Inner Reach channel. And I'm available for any questions if there is.
Do we have any questions for Director Ramey? Councilmember Bauer?
Yeah, Jeff, I'm just wondering, is there going to be additional signage? I know there's only the one sign as a boater. You know, there's the one sign on the end of the dock. Is there an intent to put another sign out on the buoy or something, just so, you know, people still fly through there? And I'm glad we're doing this because it's kind of crazy in that zone. But would you guys do some additional signing?
Yes. So we're looking at some signage to inform folks at the launch ramp and launching areas around Humboldt Bay, as well as we are going to purchase 6 buoys that will be installed throughout that affected area to help remind people. Seeing the buoy is a great reminder, and so we'll work with our other agencies for the placement and things like that. Yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll open it up to public comment. Anyone from the audience? Excuse me. Called you council member. Latanya?
I'm sorry, I may be kind of new to the area. I'm not exactly sure where exactly you are referring to that this activity takes place. As far as the bay is concerned, I do live near a bridge, the Samoa Bridge. You're there, is that where you're referring to?
Yes, I can pop that map back up.
Thank you.
And you say that there are people that, not Hugh, but Scott, sorry, mentioned that people, okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
There's some points of reference on this map, like the Samoa boat ramp, which is the bridge right here. These slips along Woodley Island, and then we have our public marina down at the other end.
Would that be where I know I'm not supposed to give fireworks. They do fireworks here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. And looking in the audience, I'm not seeing any further comments. So now would be the time for comments and suggesting a motion. And as Mayor Pro Tem, I usually don't, but I just want to say that I really appreciate the clarification of this. You know, the nautical, that always is just, it can be so confusing for just regular folks that are out there, you know, messing around and, you know, that aren't regular sailors or boaters. And so, and certainly we've seen the damage that has occurred or can occur. So I really appreciate you bringing this forward. And is it appropriate for me to make a motion?
You are allowed to.
I am allowed to? Okay. Well, then I'll take this one. I make a motion we waive full reading, read by title only, and adopt bill number 1004-CS, an ordinance of the city of Eureka, amending section 100.14 to title 9, chapter 100, harbor regulations provision. And there are still, after a second, we can still comment.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any more comments? Okay. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Castellano?
Aye.
Councilmember Moulton?
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer?
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell?
Yes.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for putting the map up again. Appreciate it. Okay, C4, and that would be Assistant City Manager Powell.
Yes, as you remember from last meeting when we introduced these bills, we are redoing our chapters 32, chapter 33, and cleaning some things up. So on item C4, this is chapter 33, boards, commissions, and committees. The request by council last when we introduced this bill was to eliminate any restrictions for the years of service that a member can serve on a board. So that has been changed. and it is ready for adoption when staff recommends that you waive full reading and read by title only and adopt Bill number 1001-CS. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Assistant City Manager Powell? No? Seeing none, we'll open this up for public comment. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to share on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for comments or a motion.
I'll make a motion to waive full reading and read by title only and adopt Bill number 1001-CS, an ordinance of the City of Eureka repealing Chapter 33, Other Departments, Boards, and Commissions, Sections 33.01 through 33.208, and replace with Chapter 33, Boards, Commissions, and Committees, Sections 33.001 through 33.207 of Title III Administration.
I'll second. Do we have any further comments or no? Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Castellano?
Aye.
Councilmember Moulton?
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer?
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell?
Yes.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
Okay. Next up, C5, CS City Departments. Assistant City Manager Powell, do we have a report, please?
Yes, this is also the second reading for the new City Department chapter, which is Chapter 32. This chapter had previously been just police and fire, and it had some other references to alarm billing and those kinds of things. All of the charter requires that the city have a organization chapter within its municipal code, and so all of the departments and their divisions are now represented in Chapter 32. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Are there any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll bring it back for a public comment. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to comment on this? Okay. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for comments or a motion. Councilmember Bauer.
I'll make the motion to waive full reading, read by title only, and introduce Bill 1000-CS, an ordinance of the City of Eureka repealing Chapter 32, Sections 32.001 through 32.56, Police and Fire Departments, and replacing with Chapter 32, City Departments, Sections 32.01 through 32.082 of Title III Administration.
Did you say adopt or did you say introduce? I'm just curious.
It should be adopt, sorry.
Adopt.
Second? Okay, I'll second. Oh, go ahead, Katie.
I'll second.
And can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Castellano?
Aye.
Councilmember Moulton?
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer?
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell?
Yes.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
Okay. Bill number 1002-CS, Security and Fire Alarm Systems. Could we have a report, please? Assistant City Manager Powell?
Thank you. So this is commonly referred to as our alarm ordinance. It's for intrusion and fire alarm. It had previously resided in Chapter 32, and which is now all of our departments. And so we are requesting that we adopt this ordinance to move the alarm ordinance to general regulations where it is better suited to reside. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Thank you. I know we've talked about this before, but I hadn't really honed in on the Security Industry Alarm Coalition's recommendation about the call confirmation. Could you explain how that works and if there would be any kind of potential setbacks to utilizing that?
So when I received that recommendation from the alarm industry, I did check with both Chief Watson and Chief Robertson, and along with one of the alarm companies in town. All of the alarm companies are currently doing this practice, and they encouraged us to adopt it into our language for further alarm companies that would come into the city. And so I don't know if Chief Watson has any comments regarding how the dispatch is receiving calls, but it has been noted that everybody has been complying with this practice. So I'll let Chief Watson comment.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I literally had just stepped away from my desk and caught the tail end of this, so you're going to have to repeat the question. I ask for your forgiveness, please.
No problem. I was just asking about this call confirmation process, and I understand that sounds like it's the industry standard now. I'm just curious if you see any potential downsides of requiring that. And I also, think, of course, the companies that provide staffed centers for alarms that have like an ongoing fee for that would be supportive of a system where you have to get your call like vetted through a person before, and so I guess my thought is like, does that sort of help them? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I haven't had any significant issues reported to me, and I did review this change prior to it coming before council. So I really don't have any further information at this time, other that's obviously a good question, but it hasn't been a big problem for us to date. And we can always make adjustments if we had to going forward.
Okay. Oh, my security alarm's going off right now. Yeah, I guess it does seem like, the bigger problem is dispatching police to unnecessary calls when we have, so much other stuff for y'all to be doing, police and fire. But I was just seeing that as potentially something that helps them sell a service. You know what I mean?
Well, certainly one of the purposes behind the ordinance was to reduce unnecessary calls to the police, and it has helped us with that. I don't have the exact numbers, but we did see some reductions in those kind of calls. Yeah. Unnecessary responses due to false alarms.
Great.
So, okay. Councilmember Arroyo, I don't know if this will help, but all of the alarm services, they do have a call center. It's where the alarm services are monitored, and so any type of monitored alarm service would report to this customer service area, and the idea is to ensure that it's not a false alarm and make 2 calls to vet the alarm coming in prior to calling the 911 dispatch center. And I don't think so if you pay for a monitored alarm, this extra call or this vetting is not an extra charge. It's part of the monitoring for any alarm service that someone would pay for.
Sure. I guess I was just thinking, I don't know, frankly, I don't know what the range of alarms are out there. I was thinking if someone does have a non-monitored service that just auto calls for them, that's something more inexpensive. This is probably applies to such a small number of people, and I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. Maybe that secondary backup is just the norm these days.
Council member, I do know that there are some people that, or many people that actually appreciate the efforts to get a hold of them first so that they don't end up being billed for a false alarm. We've also been able to work with the alarm companies in the past when we had a series of window smash burglaries, where by the time it got to us, so this is one downside, any delays in police response can sometimes we lose valuable minutes. And so they worked through us for a period of time where we were just getting direct dispatched, and we were not going to charge it as a false alarm in this case if it was something that fit the MO of the window smash burglaries. So silent dispatch, direct to us, we got there a lot quicker to intervene earlier. So we've kind of been flexible within the system in the past.
Interesting. Yeah. That's good to think about. Yeah, I guess, I'm fine with this. I'm ready to move on. I appreciate you thinking through it with me, though. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? No? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this issue? Latanya?
Just want to make sure that this ordinance pertains to a range of services that the fire and the police adhere to, such as emergency evacuations, like the city overall, plus down to an individual home who has an alarm system, right? I just want to make sure that that's what I'm understanding. I know I'm not supposed to ask questions, but I got to make sure I'm understanding something. That helped me so much to understand what, so just a broad range of things. I mean, these numbers that they don't tell me much. I mean,
Thank you, Latanya. City Manager, Assistant City Manager Powell, could you address that about evacuations and that type of thing? Is this something that would entail?
No, this is directed only to privately held alarms that are monitored by private alarm systems. An evacuation or a tsunami type warning notification, that's operated by the county and is completely public and not part of this private alarm system.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to comment on this item? Seeing no one, we'll bring it back for comments or a motion. Comments or a motion? I don't have it in front of me. Councilmember Bauer.
I'll make the motion. Waive full reading, read by title only, and adopt Bill number 1002-CS, an ordinance of the City of Eureka adding Title 9, Chapter 103, Sections 103.01 through Section 103.22, Private Security and Fire Alarm Systems.
I'll second.
Thank you. If there are no further comments, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Castellano?
Aye.
Councilmember Moulton?
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer?
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell?
Yes.
Unanimous yes vote. Motion carries. Thank you for tolerating all of these changes. I know it's a lot to digest. Thank you.
Thank you for all your great work. And moving on to reports and action items. So D1, authorization to release request for proposal for the waterfront specific plan. Senior Planner Castellano, do we have a report, please?
Yes, thank you. Okay, well, hello again. And I am very excited to finally be presenting the draft request for proposals for the waterfront specific plan and seeking your authorization to finalize it and release the RFP. So briefly, the city seeks to hire a consultant or firm to develop the waterfront specific plan and seek compliance with state law. The specific plan is a comprehensive planning and zoning document for a defined geographic region. It implements the general plan by providing a special set of development standards applied to a particular geographic area. And the CEQA analysis and streamlining will be used to adopt the specific plan and for approval of future development described in the specific plan. So Eureka's local coastal program, known as the LCP, and the 2040 general plan call for mixed-use development along Eureka's waterfront on Humboldt Bay. However, regulatory and environmental barriers often hinder these efforts. The main goal of the waterfront specific plan is to provide a roadmap for development and redevelopment of the vacant and underutilized sites and buildings along and near Eureka's central waterfront. This will be in order to facilitate new mixed development with a focus on promoting the production of housing. It is anticipated that the plan will result in the creation of at least 115 housing units by 2027 to help ensure the city meets its regional housing needs allocation requirements, also known as RENA. The city received $215,000 from the California Department of Housing and Community Development, known as HCD, to prepare the specific plan and environmental analysis, and specifically to accelerate housing production and streamline housing approvals. The city has an aggressive schedule for completion of the specific plan in order to meet grant funding expenditure deadlines, and does envision a project timeline of no more than 18 months, starting in mid-December of this year and ending by mid-May 2023. So briefly, here's the plan area. It encompasses approximately 130 acres. It follows the boundaries of the core area within the coastal zone as defined by the 2040 general plan. So this area does include the commercial bayfront, Old Town, the library district, but not the downtown area. The city's core area is a traditional center and cultural hub of the city, and is the primary focus of both the city's certified LCP and the 2040 general plan. Also, if budget allows, the city has asked to expand the plan area by approximately 65 acres to include a portion of the city's inland downtown core area. This would expand the plan area to 195 acres, and this expanded area does encompass most of the study area for a pending downtown Eureka parking study. So briefly, the RFP schedule, we'd like to announce it, or we'd like to release it tomorrow. We will have an optional pre-submittal Zoom meeting a little less than a month later to answer any questions about the RFP. Deadline for questions on the RFP will be shortly after the Zoom meeting. Then we'll release the addendum in mid-October. The proposal submittal deadline will be October 29th, which is a little less than 2 months after we release it. Selection panel review will be mid-November, and then interviews, if needed, shortly after, and then council action to award will be December 7th. So tonight, we are here to ensure the council is comfortable proceeding with the preliminary vision of the RFP, which includes 18 ideas for the specific plan area, which was included in the draft RFP, which was taken from the draft land use plan portion of our pending local coastal program update, the LCP. And we also would like council to authorize the release of the RFP. And here's a suggested motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a question, Councilmember Arroyo.
Hi, thank you for the presentation and the great RFP you've put together. I just was curious in looking at the, so the funding would go towards the watershed specific plan and the parking study, as well as the historic preservation regs. And I was wondering, I'm looking at what the existing planning documents were provided in the RFP. It says that the downtown parking management plan is in progress, but then we're asking people to do a parking study. Could you just speak to kind of the thoughts behind that, how one might inform the other, et cetera?
Well, I think the intent is if the inland portion is able to be included in the expanded area, then the selected consultant could utilize the outcome of the pending downtown parking study, which is in progress. And so I don't necessarily think we're going to be asking for a new study, but hopefully the results of that study will help inform parking in this specific plan area. And if we do need to address it more, we will, and we're hoping the consultant who responds to the RFP will help direct us to the proper roadmap. I'm not sure if that answers your question. I'm sorry.
It does. It just well, yeah, it's definitely helpful. I'm seeing that like we have a management plan already in progress, but then we're asking somebody to do the study, and I'm wondering if it's flip-flopped or yeah, what the sequencing is there.
So the parking study is being undertaken right now, and this waterfront specific plan would either run along with or follow closely after that parking study is completed, and the parking study may be used to inform the waterfront specific plan, and especially if the respondent can include the inland portion of the city in the specific plan, then I think that parking study is going to be a huge help to them. Does that help?
It does, yeah. I did see it that these are separate elements. I just it looks like, are we calling the parking management plan and the parking study, are those the same thing?
I think they are in my mind.
Okay. Because the agenda summary says downtown parking study, and I think parking management plan, I mean, would a subset of that would be the study, but anyway, I just wondered if this was the same, if we're talking about the same thing.
I think the official name of it is the parking management plan. I think of it as the parking study. So
for sure. Okay. Yeah, I think that'll be really helpful. And I would hope that that would really inform the waterfront plan. So I'm happy that that's happening. I'm sure it'll be exciting for people to engage in a conversation around parking. It always is, but it's much needed. So thank you.
Councilmember Castellano?
Let's see, just a quick question. I'm also very excited about this. So one of my questions is that I'm excited and appreciative that you've included both the waterfront area as well as this downtown core area, but I have some concern around, that the study of the downtown or the inclusion of the downtown core area is kind of cost dependent. So I'm wondering, because I want that, I want it to happen, right? So I'm just wondering like what recourse council might have if there isn't, I suppose we could fund a separate study at that point, or would that be the kind of the chain of reactions?
Yes, Councilmember Castellano, I think that if the council decided that they wanted to include the inland portion, then there would need to be some other funding provided for that if the consultant is not able to work that into their $215,000 budget.
Okay, great. And then is there space for, I had just some kind of minor feedback on some of the language and description. Is there space to give that? Okay, I could wait and give it maybe after the questions period. Maybe that makes the most sense. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll open this item up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this item? Latanya.
Forgive me. I'm just trying to make sure I'm keeping up with what's happening. Okay, so there's a parking, some parking for people who's working and driving in the city of Eureka or Humboldt County that come in Eureka. There's a parking, like park and ride. So I guess those people, is that what they're doing, the park and ride type thing, or just parking in general? And then I want to know just how does this tie into the existing construction on Broadway? I mean, there's supposed to be something there. I know this is not Broadway. I know it's on near the bay or on the coast, but I'm just trying to figure out just, in terms of navigating throughout the city, trying to get around. And so I'm looking, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of people here, which is good. And I'm looking forward to seeing all these people. I'm so looking forward to doing that. And I want to make sure that when I submit my comments to Caitlin and Mrs. Gotez, that I'm going to include my questions pertaining to this. D1? Yeah, so I'm very anxious to see just the parking. That's what this is addressing, the parking. And yeah, I'm so anxious to see that. And yeah, looking forward to seeing the people. Yeah, lots of people. Yeah.
Thank you, LaTanya. Janelle.
Is my mic on?
Yes.
Okay, great. I want to talk about the housing part of it rather than the parking part of it. I was happy to see in the report that addressing homelessness in a proactive and productive manner is important to you. And I want to suggest that the housing element is the long-term solution to the homeless issue, and that's why housing is so important. I also have a few questions. First, how many of the sites identified in the housing element, sites for housing that were identified in the housing element, are actually in the coastal zone? And then also, the LCP, the current LCP, I thought it was said that already allows for multi-story mixed use in the coastal area. And the last question, I think, was, has the coastal portions of the 2040 general plan that you approved a few years ago been sent to the Coastal Commission for review? And as for what you're doing this evening, I actually would suggest that you focus on the inland portion, because, as I said, you already have a plan for housing in the inland portion. I think that's where most, if not all, of the housing identified in the housing element is suggested to be. And also, I think the review of the coastal plan, the update of your coastal plan, which is also mentioned, is really important that you do. I mean, 1960 codes is what the coastal zone zoning is. And so I think that update of the coastal plan is really, really important. And I think it should be done looking at the whole coastal area rather than taking it piecemeal. And I think that's all that I had to say on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Janelle. Would you be willing to email those questions?
Yes.
Thank you.
But not right now?
No, when you get
Okay.
a moment. Thank you so much. Are there any other people that would like to comment on this item? I'm seeing no one. So I'll bring it back to council for comments or motion. Councilmember Arroyo and then Castellano.
Just wanted to note that I'm not, I'm not more enthusiastic about parking than other uses. I see the preservation or redesign of parking, whatever that may look like, as part and parcel to other forms of development, including housing, because as we've seen in the last year, people's feelings about parking can be in direct conflict with housing development in these areas where we have dense development and potential for more dense development. So that's why I think it's important. And, I'm not anxious to see a lot more types of parking or anything like that. But if we don't address that, we're going to regret it. So I'm glad it's going to be something that we encourage our consultants to really think carefully about and look at the, the study that's underway right now. So, and I'll shush for now, but I might have other thoughts.
Councilmember Castellano?
Let's see, just a couple of things. One, I really appreciate that there's, in the kind of scope of work outline that there are several public meetings that will be part of that. So that's, I think, going to be really important for council to, hear from the public and, also give their input, but for, more people to participate in really kind of dreaming and thinking about what this is. I was thinking, and I think this is just one of those, a lot of this introduction to the city of Eureka is from some of our a text that already existed, but I was thinking it might make sense just to talk about in the Humboldt State University section to include something about the growth of HSU and the move towards being a polytechnic, just because I think that I'm sure whoever is awarded, will get that information, but I think it is going to be important as we think about housing to have that as part of our considerations. And then, let's see. I guess I just put something about in this section on page 13 about, hold on, my cat's being really funny. Okay. About that celebration, something about that kind of acknowledges our equity and diversity work in terms of cultural celebrations in that language around cultural and art related facilities and events, I suppose. And I really like that there was live, work, and mixed use spaces in there. And then, the last thing, this is something on my mind, and this is page 14 of the document, or 284 of the agenda pack, was, there's mention of use of vacant buildings and unused upper story space, but I thought it might be important to put something about buildings in need of renovation or with safety and code violations as part of that as well. Again, I think we will have opportunity for that input, but it may be nice just to include it from the get-go. If those changes are, I know it's going out tomorrow, so if those changes are easy enough to make, that's all.
I just did want to, may I clarify?
Yes.
Some of your suggestions. I think maybe they could be included in the vision at the very beginning, because the sections that you would like to modify are actually direct quotes from our general plan. So they're from an adopted document. I'd love for Kristen to weigh in on if we should amend these sections or add Councilmember Castellano's suggestions to the beginning under the draft vision.
We can certainly work in Councilmember Castellano's suggestions and figure out exactly where in the document those should be.
And I'm not attached to any specific location for them. And of course, that's, pending kind of consensus from the rest of council also.
Okay. So we're in the comment period, and we are still looking for a motion. Councilmember Arroyo.
I'll do it, but I need a second to pull it up. The recommended motion. I move that we adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Eureka authorizing the release of, of the request for proposal for the waterfront specific plan.
I'll second that.
Okay, and did you, the maker of the motion, did you want to consider Councilmember Castellano's additions.
Yes, could you rephrase those again just so that I can get it clearly in there?
I'll try to do my best. Let's see. Okay, I'll just do it in kind of a bullet point format. Inclusion of reference to HSU's growth as polytechnic. Inclusion of equity and diversity language relating to cultural celebrations. And inclusion of buildings in need of renovation or with safety/code violations.
So that would be like a focus on specific buildings where there are known safety concerns within the area. Is that what that means? Or identification of?
Maybe slightly larger than that. Just, safety concerns or that are perhaps in disrepair, which, maybe is sort of like moving toward safety concerns.
So that would be asking the consultant to also do like an inventory of those. And I would say maybe also ADA buildings with ADA considerations. I mean, that's adding a lot. So I want to make sure before adding that to the motion, does that seem like something that we could reasonably include? Okay, great. Then I am in favor of those additions.
Thank you. And Councilmember Bauer, did you have your hand up? No, you're good. Okay. If there are no further comments, we will have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Castellano?
Aye.
Councilmember Moulton?
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer?
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell?
Yes.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
Thanks, everybody. It was a beautiful RFP, by the way. Very lovely. So our next item is our diversity plan, and usually we take a break at 8 o'clock, and I think this may be a robust conversation. So I'm curious if folks would agree to taking, 5-6 minutes now, and then, is that long enough? And then coming back to that item, taking a break a little early. Does that sound good? So why don't we come back, what time is it now? 7:48, so if we come back at like 7:55, does that work for everybody? Okay, we'll see you then. Thank you.
Yippee.
Our diversity plan, and we will be hearing from Human Resources Director Will Folger.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I'm very excited to be presenting this item to you all today. We've been working for many years on the diversity plan, and we're now at a very critical juncture where the city, in partnership with Fog Break, has come to the point where we have developed and are presenting to you the mission, vision, and value statement, which is going to be one of the guiding sort of ethos principles of how we move forward with the action phases of this diversity plan. And so I have here with me today in my office, Burkay Brown from Fog Break, and I'm going to turn it over to him to do his presentation. And then I will be available afterwards if there's any questions that he can't answer. But I'd be surprised if there are, because the guy knows just about everything there is to know about this type of stuff. So with no more further ado, I will turn it on over to Burkay here.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm going to take my mask off as Will exits the room, and so I don't fog my glasses. I'm going to be looking back and forth at the same time, but it's all about us. It's all about the work that we're doing, so I'm excited to be here. I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to be able to speak and represent some of the work that we've been doing over the past few months. And let's get right into it. So the first thing I want to do is share my screen, I think I have that ability. Let me just make sure. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you guys can see my screen. All right, perfect. Well, I'll move you over here. I actually may just move this camera over here. As close to looking at you as possible. All right. And I'll take these off so you can see my eyes. All right. So let's get right to it. We just wanted to kind of give you guys an update on where things have been, what we've been up to, and the direction that we're going. And hopefully, as we share what we're going to share with you, it's going to answer any questions and also bring some clarity and excitement about what we're going to be doing over the next few months and what we have done. And what we have done is significant, and it's really about setting a foundation for the work that we're going to be doing. What I always say is kind of imagine it like an arrow. Before you shoot an arrow forward, you have to pull it back. And it's that pulling back that's sometimes the most difficult thing. But the further that you can pull it back, the further it's going to shoot forward. And that's what we want to be able to do. So with that said, let's move forward. Here's an overview of the roadmap, what we're going to be covering today. We're going to do an overview of our project and the phase 1 recap. We're also going to do a phase 2 summary, and then also share the values, mission, and vision statements that have been created by the workplace, and then what our next steps will be from there. Sound good? All right. Okay, so the project overview and phase 1 recap. So the first phase is our discovery phase, and what that is to discover, it's to uncover, to find out. This is where we did the consultation, the info gathering, the interviews. This is where the initial report came from. This is, where are we? What's going on? Let's take a look. Let's get a clear understanding of things. After the discovery session is the foundation section, and that's pretty much where it's about setting the foundation. If you're going to build a building, you have to first dig down and create a foundation and structures for how we want to build, what we want the building to look like, how weight is going to be dispersed properly. This is where we do the mission, vision, and values. This is where we are. We just finished right now, and we're going to be describing that in a little more detail in a second. After that, we move into the education phase. This is workshops, racial justice, implicit bias, procedural justice. This is where we say, okay, we now know who we want to be. Now let's apply that to these specific areas. And we'll kind of use this mission, vision, and values as our guide to make sure that we're staying within who we say that we are when we're implementing this new knowledge, and not only taking it in, but also implementing it in the way that we show up in the workplace. And then the implementation phase, this is where self-guided learning for leadership and inclusion in their final report. This is kind of where we're really tying the bow and making sure that everybody is on the same page and everybody is moving towards the direction of really creating a more inclusive and diverse workspace. All right. So before I hop into it, I just want to share a little bit about just a thought experiment that kind of helps us understand why are we taking this approach? Why are we doing it this way? If you look at the left side, I think it's the left side. For me, it's the left side of my screen. It says current reality. And current reality is, where are we now? On the right, it says vision. That's where do we want to go? And I always relate it to this. If I walk into a mall and I'm looking for a specific place that I want to go to, let's say it's Macy's, which I don't even know if they're still open, but let's say I want to get to Macy's. Before I get there, what do I have to do? I have to look for the "You Are Here" sign. And ultimately, if anybody's telling you about a vision without being clear on the "You Are Here" sign, I wouldn't trust them, because if we don't know where we are, we don't know contextually where we need to go. Does that make sense? So phase 1, that was the place where we were discovering. That's where we determined what our current reality was. Then phase 2, the MVV work for finding out what the mission, vision, and values of the workplace at Eureka are. That's the vision. And what happens when you have the current reality with the vision, as they are in two different places? Almost imagine that there's a rubber band that's tied around the two of them. The further apart there's a little more tension. And that tension is actually a friend of ours, because that tension causes creative tension. It's a positive tension model. And what that means is that if we hold a strong enough, clear enough view of what our vision is, it'll slowly start to pull our current reality towards that space. So instead of just giving information, our main goal is, how do we make sure that you are clear on what you're trying to get to? Once that clarity is there, the information becomes more valid, more valuable, more applicable to every individual. And that's what builds a culture. And that's ultimately what's most important. It's not about knowing what to do. It's about building a culture where doing what we know we should do is natural, where the current is moving in that direction. All right. So we had key findings. We did this in our city council meeting, I believe it was in February. And we had our key findings. The ones that I want to spend most of our time talking about today are the number 2 right here. There's a need for a unifying vision around equity and inclusion, championed by leadership in both word and deed. And that's really what we're focusing on with the mission, vision, and values. When we are clear on the direction that we're going, like I said, the easier it is for everybody to fall in line to move in that direction. We're actually going to be doing a leadership meeting tomorrow, which is really going to be providing spaces and ideas and strategies to really implement this to be a part of the culture, so they're not just these, platitudes that we're utilizing, but actually things that we live by, stand by, fight for. All right, and here's a summary of phase 2. All right, and in phase 2, I guess what we can look at is what is the purpose of mission, vision, and values? It's not, a lot of people see mission, vision, values as something that's good for companies, but the reason it's so important is because we want to set a precedence. And so the mission, vision, value process was designed for the city as an employer, that is for the workplace, the city of Eureka, not the greater city as a whole. The MVV work is inspired by and supports DEI work, but is not limited to DEI. And the reason that this is so important is that when you say this is who we are, this is the bucket of what we stand for, DEI must fit inside of it, as well as everything else. But the truth is that if you're inclusive, that should include everybody. So DEI should be a part of the mission, vision, and values, as opposed to its own part separate from the vision. It's by having them connected together and making it who we are that we're more likely to exhibit those behaviors as opposed to just checking off a box. The third bullet point, having all employees feel engaged in the MVV creates a community and buy-in. And ultimately, the reason that we had this huge kind of seminar in the beginning is because we wanted everybody's voice to matter. This is not our little council is going to be able to find out what the DEI desires are. No, we're all going to come together. We're all going to see what makes us similar. We're all going to see what makes us feel part of this family. And then from there, co-create the mission, the vision, the values. That means everybody has a say in the matter. And if we have a say in the matter, it would be cognitive dissonance to disagree with our own selves. Let me go back real quick. The last part, phase 3, will refer back to the shared values and the vision statement and further develop these issues by defining the terms such as equity as we grow together as a community. And what this ultimately is saying is that they say a lot of times that people don't hear what you say. You have to say it 7 times before they hear it the first time. And really the call is, how do we allow this mission and vision and values to be so predominant, so often heard and talked about in every meeting, whether it is specifically about inclusion or about something else, where they're spoken about so much that everybody is aware of what they are. And any time that we kind of implement a new action item or a new initiative, we can pull out those values and say, hey, this is how we can show up in our values in this specific initiative. Because if we start to make the mission, vision, and values so prominent to how we exist, then it becomes a part of the culture. It becomes how you hire, it becomes how you fire, it becomes how you do everything. And it makes it so much easier for us to go by that precedent on the wall versus who your boss is or who you know or anything like that. This is what we stand for. As they come in and they join the Eureka workplace, they know already, right? And they know when they're going against it as well. All right. Moving right along. This is the process that we've taken so far. May 7th, we had our vision, values, and mission virtual session with over 100 employees. This was over 3.5 hours, as I was saying. We wanted to get everybody involved, and it was a great session. Everybody got to share. Everybody got to talk about what was important to them. And June 21st, we did a follow-up virtual leadership session with 17 department heads over 3 hours. On the 21st, we did a crystallization meeting with the city manager, assistant city manager, and human resources. Today is the city council report, and tomorrow will be department mission statements and leadership education sessions. And so what you can see here is this is about all hands on deck. Everybody's involved. Everybody has skin in the game. Everybody's touching this initiative. And the reason that's so important is when everybody is a part of it, it's very hard to fight against it because you're fighting against yourself. And so really what we're doing is we're setting that precedence. This is who we are. And this is going to be exemplified mainly by the leadership. And then those that are working will also see that and themselves kind of work to exemplify that behavior as well. The goals for phase 2 were to strengthen connections between coworkers, crystallize shared values and define them, create captivating vision statement that everybody can believe in, create a purposeful mission statement that everybody can believe in. And the great thing is, I mean, we went into great detail into figuring these things out where everybody got to share their own, and then we voted and we could choose and we worked together, and the word kind of played a little bit to see what fit and everybody had a piece in the process. Discover how mission, vision, and value is used in the workplace and in the larger community, and then ultimately to gain clarity regarding mission, vision, and values, and a structure to execute. These are some takeaways that we had in the surveys after we did that first session. We're all individuals, but we have more in common than not. A bunch of do-gooders here. A lot of people in this group appear to have similar values because we're all participating in this activity and care about one another. Great building blocks for the city. Love seeing all the different statements. Our values are already pretty aligned, although many of us do not work directly with one another. I learned that Eureka is a cool place to work. I really enjoyed the process. I think what's so great about this is a lot of times we forget about the human-centric nature of these initiatives and how if we can get people to see over their fence into another and then say, wow, they have the same color grass as I do, or wow, they enjoy this food the same way that I do. When you start to see, oh my gosh, you're a lot more similar to me than different, then all of a sudden, unconsciously, it makes you feel closer. Unconsciously, they become a part of your family just a little bit more, and unconsciously, your behavior starts to move in that direction. You couple that with education, you learn how to make changes as opposed to why you need to make changes, right? This is ultimately the work that we're wanting to do. We want to kind of put a little grease on the wheel so that it's easier for us to go into the education phase that we'll be going into after this process. Everybody with me? You guys are great. All right, I'm just going to share a quick video. This is a video from one of our exercises. This is the shared values exercise. Just a short thing, just so you can get an idea of some of the work that's been done, and then we'll move on from there. Let me know if you can, just give me a thumbs up if the sound is coming through, all right?
So, we got a lot of raised hands. Who wants to go first and share the 3 values that your team, your group has put together?
Okay, so we narrowed ours down between the 4 of us to equality, respect, and wisdom.
Community service, family, and integrity.
Our group came up with equity, equality, growth, and service.
Our group came up with, we had to kind of combine some terms here and create maybe some new words, but interconnectedness, commitment, and justice. It's so good to see how these things are created. Interconnectedness wasn't even a word, but then birthed from these other values, you're like, what is it that ties it all together? All right, let's have another group share.
We have honesty, teamwork, and wisdom.
Okay, so for us, we have friendship, excellence, and personal knowledge.
We have integrity, service, and security.
So, our group has community, personal development, and fun.
We had caring, ethical practice, and influencing others.
My group had quality relationships, inner harmony, and independence.
Integrity, equality, and community.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Everybody, thank you so much for sharing. Give yourself some snaps on that. We see a lot around community, around family, a lot around equality, equity, justice, integrity. And when you think about diversity and you think about inclusion, these things are a part of it. Our own natural values, what we say that we care about, is a part of creating a sense of belonging. It's about engaging. It's about letting people feel that togetherness. We have wisdom, personal growth, inner harmony. We see how this kind of desire to develop ourselves. This is how we start to see what is common among us. This is how values are created, because why try to create values that are not your own? In an organization where you already have your own internal drivers that we're all about already that can drive us forward. How do we use these values that are starting to clarify in a way to motivate action? And what we're going to do as time goes by is the leadership is going to work together to say, okay, how do we put this together into a clean understanding of what this value means to us?
All right. So we just wanted to give you guys just a little look at under the hood at some of the work that we've been doing. And it's great to see that people are engaging. That's the most important thing, to get that engagement started. Because what happens is as the value of this work becomes more important, we then can demand more. We then can provide more information. We then have kind of more leverage to really push on the changes that we want to see as we move into this education phase.
No, we got a lot.
It was a good video, but I don't want to watch it twice. All right. All right, so let's share these values real quick. And these are the ones that the workplaces Eureka has put together, has created in their own. And the reason that you'll see the black lettering and the orange lettering is because something that we always say is that values are inert if they're not defined. So if you look up a word in a definition, you find the word, then you find the definition. That's how you understand the word. And so if we just said community, that wouldn't be enough. We want to know, what does community mean to you, right? And then clarity in a lot of ways will determine what behaviors elicit community and what behaviors don't elicit community. So you look at a dictionary, it says the word, the definition, and then it says used in a sentence, right? That's how you get a better context of what's happening. So we're doing that so that it becomes something that all of us just unconsciously immediately know. So first one, community, a sense of togetherness founded on respect, mutual support, and kindness, with awareness of privilege, power, and position. Equity, recognition and celebration of individuality with inclusion and impartiality as the standard. And I love that word, as the standard. That's the expect. That's where it is. We start there. Growth, forward momentum that maximizes opportunity for people to reach their potential. And this can show up in so many different ways. And this is some of the strategies that we will have and that you can work on together as with the leadership is, okay, what does that look like? How do we create these growth opportunities that maximize opportunity for all people to reach their potential? Integrity, quality character and courageous action with a unified commitment to principles, honesty, and transparency. This hits in a lot of different areas and different angles. And just as we list out what behaviors can fit with that, it says a lot. And final, service, a steadfast commitment to improving conditions for others. So these are the values that we have come up with, that Eureka's workplace has come up with. And there has been a lot of painstaking time that was put into it because we don't want any just banal platitudes. We want something that means something. And there were people who said yes to this, no to that. And that conversation almost is more important than the values. Because as people express, when people communicate and share what they think and what they agree and disagree with, that's where we get the substance. And all we want right now is substance, because that substance is what's going to root us in the work that we're going to be doing. The final vision statement. We envision an inclusive community where everyone's fundamental needs are met, where our employees respect and celebrate all walks of life, where everyone can grow and thrive as we work with integrity for the good of Eureka. And there's so much I love, Scott, I love seeing the nodding of the head. That feeling, that is what it's about. When people are like, this hits those spots, right? That's what's so important, is that being able to look at this and not say that this, it's missing a word or it needs to have this word. It's not the vision that changes. It's the fact of building the vision. It's the process of putting the vision together and then sharing it with other people. Because when you share with other people, the conversation starts. Ultimately, what happens is when people get so stuck on, okay, this is the values, this is the vision, this is the mission. No, it's what they do when we talk about them, when they're existing through us, right? That's more important than just the wording itself. But there's a lot of power in here and a lot of things that are tackled. And I think that it's really powerful for us to ask, and this is what, with any organization that we're working with, is, okay, the choice that you have before you, you have two choices. Which one is closer to the vision that you desire? This one. Well, that's the direction you go. Okay. Now, with the options of how to do it, how do you want to show up? Which one's closer to the values? Because your values are how you show up, right? Well, this direction. Okay, then we'll go that direction. And ultimately what this is about is that the more clear you are on who you are and where you're going, the less decisions you'll have to make. The reason people find themselves not motivated or the organizations find themselves kind of stuck is because there's not clarity. And that's why getting behind a single vision, no matter how exactly it's worded, is really where the power is at. This is a beautiful vision. And I know there's a lot of time and work that was put into this by all of the staff at Eureka, and as well as the leadership. I really want to commend them on their process as well, really for directing and guiding this. This is the final mission statement. And a mission statement is ultimately why we exist, right? What are we here to do? What is our purpose? Our values is how we show up while we're doing it. Our vision is where we're going. Our mission is the pathway to it. To meet the needs of Eureka residents, businesses, and visitors by providing services and making decisions that are socially, fiscally, and environmentally responsible, creating a workplace that values growth, inclusion, and empathy for all. What you'll notice as you look at these later on, you'll see that inside the mission statement and the vision statement are the values. And what that is continuity. At the end of the day, continuity is more powerful than anything else. When you get it, why do you watch commercials? When commercials are just hitting you all the time, you can memorize numbers that you never wanted to memorize. It's the fact that they were repeating. It's the fact that the sound of that jingle is just so convincingly sticks into your brain. It doesn't even have to be a good song. It just gets into the ear. In the same way, that's what we're doing here. The more that it's repeated, the more that people are engaging in it, the more that it gets stuck in the brain. And when it gets stuck in the brain, it's stuck for good. And that's where the leadership can really utilize it to direct the entire work staff in the directions that they want to go to create the vision that we desire. This is a beautiful mission statement. And again, kudos to all of the employees at Eureka and the leadership as well for fashioning this together. So what are our next steps? Tomorrow, we're going to do our education session with the departmental heads. We're going to create departmental missions and learn how to use shared values and create specific goals and priorities related to D&I. And so pretty much what our goal tomorrow is similar to what I was talking about here. How do we start to make our purpose more known, more visible, more heard, more talked about? Not just the mission for Eureka, the workplace, but also what are the departments doing? And are they in continuity with the grander mission, right? Because if we start to see that, you gain momentum, you gain inertia, and that's where the changes really can happen. September 20, we're going to have our monthly meeting with the city manager, assistant city manager, and head of human resources. We'll be doing those monthly just to make sure that all the train is on the tracks. And then October, December, we'll be moving into phase 3 with workshop sessions on procedural justice. Like we said, phase 3 is the education phase. And if we started off with education without knowing where people were and giving a vision of where they wanted to, it would be less powerful, less impact, because we wouldn't have as much inertia. And we just know that if you're going to create a culture, not just a moment of diversity and inclusion, a culture of diversity and inclusion that goes on beyond our stay working here, then we know we have to make sure that we have to start from the roots and work our way up. There's a great quote. I love this quote. It popped in my head right now, so I have to share it. It says, "For every 1,000 hacking at the leaves of evil, there is one chop at the root." And so really what we're focusing on right here with this work that we've done, that's the chop at the root. What's most important? Who are we? And sometimes more importantly, who are we not? Right? What do we stand for and what will we not stand for? This type of awareness really makes it easy to pick out bad apples and pull in those that bring good fruit. All right. So, as we said, we were in consultation. We were in the discovery phase, moved into the foundations, and now we're moving into the education phase. And then after that, we'll be going into the implementation phase. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to me, to watch the videos, and we'll open it up with the council members for any questions. Thank you again.
Thank you, Burke. Are there any questions from council? Pardon me, I can't see all of you. Councilmember Arroyo?
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation, Burke, and I really like the inclusion of the videos. I just wondered if you could speak more to what procedural justice means in this context.
Perfect. So there's a couple of options. And Shanti, if you're on it, I can open it up to you. Feel free, because I know this is your spot.
I'm here. I'm
All
going to turn on my video. Hi, I'm Shanti Bryan with Fog Break. I've met a lot of you, and procedural justice is a method for governing that creates maximum engagement. So it's used not only for government agencies to create community engagement through community trust building, transparency, and accountability, but it's also very useful in creating a workplace where the employees are engaged. And one of the crucial pieces of procedural justice method is fairness. So we start with procedural justice with the government agencies we work with, because it's such an important building block in engaging with whatever community you're in. And it creates a context for learning about bias and learning about fairness, and how we de-bias, how we create more fairness, how that's absolutely essential to get the community trust, to get the buy-in, to get the engagement that we're looking for. So it's sort of a foundation for more specific DEI topics like racial justice or implicit bias.
Great.
That
Thank you
was
so much.
long-winded, but you can also Google procedural justice and maybe get a better. Christy, do you want to say a little more about procedural justice as a framework? No, I think that's enough.
Okay.
Well, now I want to hear from Christy.
Okay. Well,
She's actually our resident expert in procedural justice.
Well, it's an approach to governance, and it was established by Tom Tyler out of Yale University decades ago. So we really like it because it's an approach that's based on data. That he was very interested with the question: how do you get people to comply with the laws and besides just the sort of punitive approach and making them afraid to do the alternative? Is there a better way to get people to just comply in their community with what we ask them to do, just to be a law-abiding member? And even more so, to actually engage, to volunteer and vote and do all the things we want our community members to do. So that was the question he sought to answer, and procedural justice is really the answer to that question. And it tells us that when people feel that they are listened to, they have an opportunity to tell their story, that they can trust their government, the government means what it says, they're treated fairly and with respect, they actually comply. And you don't need to use the harsh fear approach when you have those tenets, those principles are in place. And so I'm sure the chief could say, police officers are often trained in this, but what they've also shown is that just all government actors can use this to get the community's trust and compliance, not just in the police law enforcement context, but schools and city governments and so forth can also. And it starts within. You have to use the principles within your workplace before you go out into the world and expect the community members to abide by it. So that is our approach, and that we are interested in sharing here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It was helpful to hear it framed a couple different ways too. And so just on that same topic, so we're talking about lessons in like what procedural justice is for our staff for use internally as a building block for applying those concepts to the way that they work with all community members. Am I capturing that right? Okay. Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Are there any other questions?
Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the public. Is there any public comment on this item? Latanya?
I have questions regarding what sounds like, listening to your presentation, it does sound very good. I do see that some positives. I think something that you mentioned may have been in place in another city, thinking a city on the East Coast, and it looked like it was working. One of the things, a question that did stand out is, I would need to know, is there a contact person that I could get to? Maybe if I submit my questions to Pam Powell, and then she would in turn send them to you, Mr. Folger, or regarding, or Ms. Chandler, regarding my question. I don't know, but I'm just I'm new to the area, and I'm sensing some. I'm fearing myself. So, but that's just enough. I'm going to say. So I'll just submit my comments in writing and submit to get them to you guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other people from the public who would like to comment?
I think I raised my hand.
Is that you, Janelle?
Yeah, did I raise my hand? I thought I found the thing to do it.
I saw your thumbs up, but I wasn't sure if you were commenting on Latanya or if you were just giving a thumbs up like, yeah, this is awesome.
Well, actually, that is what I was going to say. I'm sorry, I missed most of their presentation, but what I heard at the end here sounds so good, and I congratulate you all for embarking on this. I'm not new to the area. I think it is well past time, and I'm just looking forward to going back and reviewing the video of this. So thank you.
Thank you, Janelle.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing anyone else from the public, so we'll bring it back to council for comments or a motion. Councilmember Arroyo.
I don't know if there's a recommended motion. Is it like we're receiving this report?
My understanding is that
Are we adopting?
We're recommending. It's a recommendation. You're right.
Great. I wholly support these mission, vision, and value statements. But it seems like maybe I don't need to make that motion, but or are we adopting it? We are actually adopting it. Okay, sorry, that was awkward. I recommend that, or I move that we adopt the mission, vision, and value statements developed through the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion plan.
I second that. Oh, Kim. Good
You
job.
can have it, Scott.
No, it's fine.
Scott seconds. Are there any further comments?
I just want to say, great job to everybody involved. I mean, it's a large undertaking, and it's about time. So thank you, everybody who was involved in this.
Councilmember Castellano, did you have your hand up? And then Councilmember Moulton?
I did. Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate how you've kind of gone further into the clarity of the purpose, and it is really kind of nice to see the things that the group worked on together kind of gelling and pushing the process forward. So I do look forward to the further implementation, and thank you so much.
Councilmember Moulton?
I just wanted to add my gratitude and my admiration for the process. I think it was very informative in getting lots of people who work for the city across departments to interact to do this. I think broke down a lot of barriers, and that's going to be important towards making this happen going forward. And I'm really looking forward to the implementation phase, how does this rubber hit the road, and how do we really walk the walk that we have been talking about. I'm looking forward to that and seeing you all tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Councilmember Arroyo.
I really appreciated the extra thoughts about procedural justice. And I have to admit, when I first read these, I was like, I mean, sure, like, these are great. Who wouldn't like that? I mean, the way that the mission, vision, and values, it was like, it felt like a no-brainer. But at the same time, understanding that it was really largely about the process and getting that buy-in and having it reflect people's own words was really helpful. So thank you for the explanation, for diving into that and sharing with us like how that was developed, because I think that added a lot to it. And I'm thrilled to be able to adopt what our staff came up with, I mean, I guess we're always adopting what our staff came up with, but still it feels like it's even more, about their own words and their own vision. So, thank you for engaging in that process with them. And it's, it's something that, that we as electeds, we have a different relationship to our staff. And so we can't, I mean, we've been part of these processes, but it's kind of about them and about them owning that process and the outcomes. So, I would love to be there, like cheering along and participating at every step of the way. But I think in some ways it's really great for this to gel, for staff to gel around this themselves together. So I'm excited that each department's going to be coming up with their own interpretation of this too. I think that'll be a really valuable process, and I'm happy for that. So I think it creates a good conversation about, what it's like to really be in public service in a staff role, which is so important because that's who, you know, our community members interact with every day. So yeah, good work.
So I actually have a comment as well. I really appreciate this as well. You know, I have to admit that just from a soul place, it's really disappointing that we even have to look at this, that people don't understand that this is just looking at the similarities of each other really makes a huge impact on relationships, looking for the ways that we can connect instead of looking for the differences. And I think we see a lot of that now. So that being said, I really appreciate though, our staff's input. I mean, that to me was very magical. The fact that they came up with so many wonderful and great values really speaks to who they are. And I just appreciate that so much. It's great to work in a place where people actually do consider those things and want to implement and want to do better and be a better team. And I just, you know, I just really appreciate our staff, and I appreciate your energy that you've brought to this. It really certainly has been very passionate, and I think it's created a lot of wonderful energy that we'll be moving forward with. So thanks so much. And so with that, if there are no more comments, we will have a roll call vote.
All right. Councilmember Castellano?
Aye.
Councilmember Moulton?
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer?
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell?
Yes.
Unanimous yes vote. Motion carries.
Thank you again for being here. Look forward to seeing the implementation and the excitement that this is going to generate. So thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, are there any future agenda items that council would like to discuss? Councilmember Bauer.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have kind of a list, but maybe I'll just do one for now. I'd like to see us explore maybe a nuisance ordinance against coal. So maybe we can't necessarily prevent coal trains from moving on rail, but how can we prevent it within the city? Coal dust is a pollutant. You know, transportation through town would be a pollutant. Distribution of a pollutant. So I want to see us explore that sooner than later, if possible. We can explore leases with our docks, you know, state lands kind of stuff. See how we can, once leases expire, you know, make an exclusion that coal cannot be sent out of our port. I'm frankly just shocked that this is even, here we are building a wind, a wind facility of, renewable energy, and there's this specter of the dirtiest form of energy coming through our town. And I don't want to see one lump of coal leave our port. So I really think it's important that we explore that as soon as possible.
Okay, and so do we get consensus on each individual item? City Assistant, City Manager Powell?
So the idea is to look for consensus from the council members if they would like to see something, a report or the possibility of an ordinance or resolution, or what's the for staff to do research on ways to create or prevent the coal from coming through the city. And so we would just be looking to council to give a thumbs up so we can put that on a future agenda.
Absolutely.
Specifically an ordinance as soon as possible.
Okay.
Great. Are there any other future agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move on to City Manager reports.
How does
Wait.
Oh, Scott's got more.
Oh, did you want to introduce more, Councilmember Bauer?
Yeah, actually, I don't know if any of you have read about the use of LLCs to kind of circumvent, it's essentially like rental units. So it's related to Airbnb kind of, but instead a group of investors forms an LLC, buys a property, and then they do long term. It's like a timeshare. It doesn't sound so bad unless you have seen some of what's going on I think in Napa, Sonoma, maybe. And they're essentially buying up homes and becoming long-term rentals for people. We have a pretty significant housing crisis, so I want to see how we can at least research the issue. Staff can research the issue, and if we want to develop an ordinance to essentially cut that off before it happens, because it is happening. We're talking millions and millions of dollars, and investors are doing this. I could see in the future, if it happened, you'd have, 100, 200 homes that are no longer available to residents. So I think it's something that's really important to look at and explore how we can prevent that from happening, in our city.
Councilmember Castellano?
I just have a question. I know we're rather soon, I think, moving forward with a study related to short-term rentals and things of that nature. Would this possibly be included in that, or should it be a separate item?
So,
or could it be included in that, or should it be a separate item, I guess?
This is City Manager Slattery. I don't know if you guys can see me, but yeah, that's something that we're working on currently is a short-term rental policy. Right now we're working with a consultant to get an inventory, and I think that this is definitely something we could roll into those short-term rental policy or ordinance provisions that we come up and bring back to council. The inventory is the first idea to do this, and then to be proactive, because right now these formations of these LLCs are at a much higher level. They're properties that are $2 million and more, but that doesn't mean that it could come to us later. But we could definitely incorporate provisions related to purchasing properties as an LLC and leasing them as like a timeshare type of thing. But we can look into that and add it to the policy or ordinance that we come up with for short-term rentals.
Yeah, I'll just add, I see it as an issue. Maybe, I know it's been these kind of more expensive homes, but given what's happening inland, fires, I've met a few people in Old Town that were looking for long-term rentals for the summer because they don't want to live inland anymore. It's too smoky and Redding 3 months of the year. I totally understand the health implications for those people, but we have residents that need housing, so I think it's really important that we look at this issue in some detail, because that is our future. People are going to want to abandon the interior of California to be in the healthy air of the coast, so that's why I think it's an important issue.
So we're looking for consensus. Will be potentially rolled into another ordinance. So we have that, we have a report about this specifically in that, hopefully. We have any?
I'd be interested to hear about it as part of that short-term rental, or, in combination with that effort.
I think we're going to find that it's a different issue, though, because as I understand it, these people are banding together in a group of, say, 6. They will buy an expensive property that perhaps even individually they might not be able to afford that property. And then the 6 people divvy up the year, 2 months each. And they're 2 months per share. And they maybe even split that further into 1 month or 2 weeks at a time. And so these are actually owners or members of an ownership entity that are pulling this off of the regular housing market, both rental and straight up ownership. So I think it's a good idea to consider them together initially, but you may find that you're talking about two different breeds of cat. So we'll have to develop 2 different strategies.
Bob, do you think we could learn about them at the same time?
Yeah, that's my thinking is let's do the initial report we'll look at them and we can talk about similarities and differences. So, yes.
Thumbs up. Okay, Councilmember Bauer, do you have anything further?
I do, but I think I'll save them for next time. That should be enough. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to city manager reports. City Manager Slattery.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. So at the last meeting for future agenda items, Councilmember Arroyo consensus for receiving a cannabis report. So tonight we have with us our Economic Development Manager, Swan Asbury, as well as our Senior Planner from Economic Development, Riley Topolewski, and they will give a report on basically the economy of cannabis in the city of Eureka, as well as some updated regulations that council will be coming forward in the near future. So with that, I believe Economic Development Manager Asbury is going to start.
Can y'all hear me? All right. So I'm going to go over kind of a little bit of background context for you about our cannabis program and some of our economic development impacts. And then I'm going to hand it over to Riley, and he's going to talk about some upcoming changes we have planned. So we started our cannabis program in 2016, and that's important to understand because we started our program before the state came out with their regulations in 2017. And so what we came up with in 2016 was kind of our best guess as to what to expect. And we've learned a lot. I feel like we did a good job. We have a really good program. It's gone really smooth, but we want to make some positive changes to our code and rewrite it. So Riley's going to go over that in a little bit. But I'm going to talk about the economic impacts right now for cannabis. So we currently have 61 active licenses in Eureka and 35 different businesses. So this is something that we see really common where, one business will have multiple licenses. Kiskanu is a good example of this. They started as a manufacturer and then wanted to distribute their own product and then also wanted to sell their own product and got a retail license. And then we also have 38 licenses that are in progress. So 38 different groups are in the permitting process or working on their building permits or working to come online. When starting the program, it was hard to know what to expect. We kind of expected cultivation and retail to be the two big things. Like when people think about cannabis, that's what they think about. They think about dispensaries and they think about growing. But really what's happened in Eureka is we've become a hub for distribution and manufacturing. So only 5% of our licenses are cultivation and 13% are retail, but then 41% is distribution and 41% is manufacturing. And this totally makes sense. Like you have a lot of people growing in the county and then they come into Eureka to process and manufacture their products and to distribute them out of here. We also have a couple micro businesses. So that's like an advantage on the state level. So people kind of stack licenses and then they have a tax advantage. For fee revenue, we just hit the $1 million mark this year. So our licensing fees are really reasonable. Our licenses range from $1,500 up to $9,000, depending on what type of license you get. That's an annual fee. We don't have a cannabis tax. And since starting our program, we've had $1 million come in businesses starting their companies or doing renewals. Building improvements is a huge impact to Eureka that's been positive from cannabis. So cannabis is it's a new use. When a cannabis business goes into a building, it kind of triggers a change of occupancy. And so they have to make a lot of improvements. Like for cannabis, you can't have any odor outside of your building.
And so we have this, you know, inventory of these old drafty businesses or buildings. And what's happened is cannabis has come in and fixed up these buildings. And so we've had, like right now, we estimate $25 million has been spent fixing up buildings in Eureka. So even if these cannabis businesses left, these buildings have been improved and are completely beautiful on the inside. And then jobs. This one is kind of harder to gauge, but our guess is that we have about 200 full-time jobs in Eureka right now just from cannabis businesses. And then an additional benefit that we didn't anticipate has been, we have a lot of security requirements for our cannabis businesses, and that includes their camera system. And these aren't necessarily our requirements. A lot of these are state requirements. And we've had over 10 different investigations with EPD be positively impacted by the footage from cannabis businesses. So like we've had a stabbing resolved, dumpster fires, burglaries. They're able to see the routes of people coming and going from the cannabis businesses. And so that's an additional benefit to our community that I don't think any of us anticipated. I'm going to hand it over to Riley. He's going to talk about our code changes coming up.
Thank you, Swan. Good evening, everyone. You can hit the next slide real quick there. Jumping from the top, we're going to currently, we have 12 different permit types, ranging from, as Swan mentioned, distribution and volatile manufacturing, non-volatile manufacturing, cultivation, retail, testing, transportation, and a few others. And we found similarities in a lot of them. So we're streamlining our permit types from 12 down to 3 permit types. We're pulling out retail on its own because it's kind of a unique intensive use. We're also pulling out volatile manufacturing because it requires a lot of governance. It's very dangerous. So it's its own unique bird. But we did find that the remaining 9 items share some similarities. So we're grouping them all into what we're going to call a general cannabis permit. So that's the streamlining of the licenses. We're also adding a cannabis event permit type. And it's very similar to in our current code, we have a special event. So it's kind of based on that. And just running through that, it's going to be allowed at certain locations, such as a licensed cannabis business or a private property in a non-residential zoning district. Or it could even be offered at a city facility or another public property in any zoning district. We are still working through the ins and outs of how it's going to look and feel, but we have been consulting with people like Sonoma County Fairgrounds and the City of Santa Rosa, places where they've already offered big events. So we're kind of learning from what they've learned and they're sharing, which is nice. So for the cannabis events, the city manager is the review authority. And similar to other permit processes, we need to have findings for approval. And I can go into those findings if that's kind of boring. How about the next slide? So we're doing some fee schedule changes as well. There's going to be 3 different permit types, like I mentioned, and there will be a different permit fee for each type. We don't have, I'm sorry, the fees will be lower than our previous or our current fees. We're going to go down in our permit fees. But we don't know just yet. We're still analyzing how to kind of capture the heavier users to those of the smaller industry. So we want to be able to definitely, because those bigger users end up requiring more site visits and more supervision. So we want to be sure to capture that fee accurately. So that's still in flux, as is a lot of this stuff. And we're also adding enforcement and penalties that are more robust than our current enforcement and penalty section. Because as Swan mentioned, we've now had three or 4 years to get this going, and we kind of identified common minor errors versus, more extreme violations. So we're definitely adding more specific language to address enforcement and penalties. And finally, we would like to offer to potentially do a cannabis tour. We did one back in the day when this program was first coming online, but we think it might be beneficial for city council members and planning commission members to, go on a tour to see various examples of, what a successful cannabis business looks like in Eureka. And that's all I've got. We're available for some questions. I'm sure you guys have some questions.
Councilmember Bauer.
I'm just curious why we're reducing our permit fees. Maybe that the reason I ask is because I just want to make sure we're covering staff costs, process fees and everything. So just wondering.
Yeah, in our first round of licensing, I wouldn't say that we're necessarily reducing fees. I think we're kind of reshuffling how those fees are calculated would be a better way to think of it. Like our first go around, we had track and trace monitoring, which really now goes through the state. We're not logging into SICPA and counting stamps the way we were at the beginning. But, we do have more intensive inspections for different kinds of license types. So I think we're just kind of really thinking through what our fees should be, what's appropriate. It does take a lot of staff time. Part of our process and part of why I think our program has worked really well is we have a cannabis review panel, and it's this team. It's our building department, our code enforcement, our police department, our fire department, and we review every application together and we go on every inspection together. And so we're all in this together, knowing who's doing what and where and what the issues are. And that's really helped our program work out well. But that is a lot of staff time that goes into this.
Thanks.
Councilmember Arroyo.
I was wondering if you have a sense of the sales tax revenue from cannabis.
That's a great question. Like our dispensaries?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but we can bring that back to you when we come back with the code update.
That would be cool. I just think it'd be really helpful to hear. I mean, I know that not having a special tax on cannabis is an interesting situation in that, we're potentially missing out on that revenue stream, but it sounds like it's really working to encourage businesses to locate here, and the businesses that do sell a product that's taxed are generating so much sales tax in our community. So I imagine that number's high, at least when we first heard about, I think we had a report like a while ago now, where we were learning about what the revenue had been, and it was significant. So that'd be helpful to hear about. And it seems like our approach is certainly working to draw businesses.
Yeah, I agree. I went through all the different years. So since we started, we've had 194 applications that we've processed start to finish, and we've had 164 renewals. So obviously, cannabis businesses want to continue operating in Eureka. The last League of California Cities that we went to, there was a cannabis session, and it felt like a lot of jurisdictions were looking at cannabis for their fee revenue, and I don't see companies staying in those jurisdictions. I feel like we have, at this point, cannabis has really shifted. At first, it was a lot of entrepreneurs that were really kind of navigating this, but now it's more sophisticated people that really understand the industry, and they shop cities. They look around to see who has taxes and who doesn't. And so I think the way we've structured this has worked out for us in the long run.
Any further questions? Councilmember Castellano.
I was just curious if we've seen kind of growth of tourism and that kind of industry in relationship to to cannabis, or how so?
That's a hard thing to get data on. I mean, I think people are more open about coming here for cannabis tourism, especially with farms providing tours, and the county having their marketing efforts. It's definitely something that's more of a conversation than at the beginning, but it's hard to track.
If I could add, also that's kind of this cannabis event section of the code we think will play into drawing more tourism. We've definitely met with a couple of promoters that are very interested in coming up here and setting up some events. So we need to work out the ins and outs of how to handle a cannabis event, and we're even looking at possibly having, you know, 1 or 2 city-owned facilities that could be rentals, you know, that might be some kind of a turnkey option for promoters to encourage tourism. Exactly.
Councilmember Moulton.
Have we seen any adverse effects, or is there a way to find out if we've seen any adverse effects from the cannabis businesses that are in town, either the visible ones or the manufacturing ones? Increased calls for service or complaints, anything like that?
We can definitely pull that for when we come back with the code update. Just from talking to people, I feel like the only negative I've really heard consistency is that you're now competing with cannabis businesses for real estate. And so other companies that can't hit that square foot price struggle.
Interesting. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Swan and Riley, for your report. Appreciate that. We look forward to hearing about the new improvements coming forward. So with that, if there are no more questions, we'll move on to council reports.
I just had one more thing, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm sorry.
Sure.
First of all, I want to thank Fog Break very much for making it up here and the great work they did on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Plan. And then also thank you to Swan and Riley for putting that together. We will come back with those other inquiries and to answer them for council. The other thing, I just want to announce that the September 21st council meeting is going to be canceled, and our next meeting will be on October 3rd, I believe, is the first meeting in Tuesday. So I just wanted to notify the public that the next meeting in this month will not be held, and the next meeting will be in the first week of October, Tuesday. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Slattery. So let's go ahead and start our council reports, and let's just start with the way I see you. So it looks like Katie, you're first.
Oh, how lovely. Thank you. Let's see, since the last council meeting, I did a 2x2 meeting with the Eureka City Schools, which was very informative and interesting. We talked about the Jacobs campus. We talked about COVID safety protocols and other issues specific to Eureka City Schools. Sorry, I'm trying to distill my thoughts about that meeting down to like 1 or 2 sentences. Is kind of a lot. I actually write a newsletter. If anybody is interested in my extended reflections on these sort of things, I have, because of this position, I have access and to get answers to questions. So I encourage my constituents or anyone in Eureka to get a hold of me if you have questions. I meet with the Eureka City Schools, and today we had the first meeting with the Chamber of Commerce. Also very interesting. I always like the idea of supporting local businesses and getting visitors to come here. One of the pieces that seems to come up in almost every meeting is around helping out folks with who are experiencing homelessness in our community. Obviously, it's a concern for local businesses, and then just everybody who doesn't want to see people suffering. And I learned about some great things that are going on towards that end. I'm sorry, I feel like I could give a report for an hour about what I've learned about homeless services. I've met with a CSET volunteer today who was talking about some of the great work that they've been doing and how impressed she was with Officer LaFrance, and I think we all are. We talked about a new day use center for folks where there's a safe place to go in Eureka for people, so they can put their stuff down and they can access services, a new tiny house village or new emergency shelters. And I'm just really pleased to see all these pieces coming together. And of course, you'll hear more about them as they solidify into real tangible things. And I am very excitedly in communication with folks in Kamisu, Japan. I mentioned this before, that the mayor has tasked me with revitalizing the Kamisu, Japan, and Eureka sister city relationship, which will be celebrating its 30th anniversary this November. Look forward to some interesting events. We got the schools on board talking about doing more pen pal programs, and I'm hoping to incorporate like video, short videos and things into that. So it's not just those old-fashioned pen pals, but also kind of like a new century way of doing it. And cultural events and art events. And I have a vision of getting Eureka to have a mascot, like all cities and prefectures in Japan have a mascot. And I really want Eureka to have a mascot and not necessarily Bigfoot. There's lots of great stuff going on here. And if anybody's interested in working on the Kamisu Sister City project, I'm putting together a work group right now, and we'll be meeting in mid-October to sort of brainstorm these things that we'll be working on and who wants to work on different things. So get a hold of me through my city email, and I'd be very happy to talk to anybody with an interest in Japanese cultural exchanges. That's it.
Thank you. That's very exciting. Councilmember Castellano.
Let's see. There's the Eureka Community Drum Class is continuing at Synapsis. I participated in a small Wabash cleanup and did some weeding and planting last weekend. Again, big appreciation for Robin Prasker. I attended the Coalition for Responsible Transportation Priorities Memorial for people killed by cars. There is a survey, or not a survey, but sorry, someone help me. Anyway, there's something going around for people to sign that I will be sending out. I attended the Eureka Main Street board meeting and just want to appreciate the new board members that have joined the organization, continuing to do lots of housing work, and attended the REDEC meeting where we had, or I should not use the abbreviation, the Redwood Region Economic Development Commission meeting where we had the presentation by HSU on the Polytech, which it's just great to, continue to hear about the impact that's going to make on the community. Hosted a regional arts leadership meeting and have been kind of helping do some planning for the Economic Development Summit. And I am also working with Lele with Humboldt Grace for a fundraiser for people in the Willow Creek area affected by fires. And that should be launching sometime next week. So I'll have more information about that coming forward soon.
That's a great stuff. Councilmember Arroyo.
Yeah, I just have a couple things. I also attended that memorial for people who have been killed by cars when they were pedestrians, bicyclists, using a wheelchair, skateboarding. 88 80 plus people in the last 10 years throughout Humboldt County, but a large number of those in Eureka, a large number along 101. So it's not new information that it's dangerous to be a pedestrian in Eureka or in Humboldt. And I know we're really focusing on that right now, but it was a sobering thing to hear about and to hear people's names and ages and where they were. Just really showed that it's not just a monoculture of people who get hit by cars. So I was very moved by it, but it's a tough one. We are a statistic not in a good way in California for traffic safety in Humboldt, transportation safety. So anyway, that definitely spurred me to focus on that more as much as we can. And I attended the Chamber 2x2 meeting. It was really good to talk with the Chamber board president and executive director and some of our staff, and really just hear about what the Chamber is focusing on and be able to share some ideas and opportunities for Chamber engagement. So that was great. The Humboldt Transit Authority had its regular meeting by Zoom also. It was very succinct, but I do want to note that we're still doing a $50 a month pass that is all you can ride on all the systems in the region, really. It connects people. There's Arcata Mad River Transit has always been its own thing, and this pass is actually for all transit agencies in the area, so you could easily transfer between them, and that's been really popular and really well received. So hopefully that will continue for some time. There's definitely lots more of those passes available, so please spread the word to those you know. And I have started as a graduate student at Humboldt State University as of 2 weeks ago. So I'm now in grad school. So I teach in the department in which I am a student, which is interesting and not filled with too many conflicts. But as we consider, the impact that the Polytech is going to have, it's interesting to hear my peers and my colleagues talk about that. To hear fellow students thinking about, there was some conversation amongst graduate students in the natural resources programs about, in the sciences, like how that could increase the sort of stature of their degree, that polytechnics are really, well regarded, and down the line, if HSU is a polytech, and they graduated from Humboldt State, that could, even if they didn't go there during the time when it was a polytechnic, that could still kind of have a certain clout. And it was cool to think about that. That honestly wasn't something I had considered yet. And then, just to, certainly in the sciences, I think that has some extra weight, although HSU has always been really well regarded in the sciences. But so it's an interesting new adventure, and it's also really cool to engage with students, many of whom are younger than me, and many of whom provide some valuable insight about Eureka, just by kind of chatting with me about their experiences coming here. And a lot of them are from out of the area, and it's just a really cool thing to engage with them. So I'm enjoying that. I'm ready to pass it on.
Congratulations. Councilmember Bauer.
Thank you. I totally blew it. Today is California Biodiversity Day, and we so should have had a proclamation on this. But a couple interesting facts about California. California has 6,500 native plants, 220 mammals, 100 reptiles, 75 amphibians, and 70 freshwater fish, and 30,000 insects that are native to the state. We're like one of the richest states in biodiversity in the United States, actually. And so everybody should be thinking about that, the importance of biodiversity. There's a whole week-long, really, thing going on. You can look it up, you can find all kinds of events to do, but celebrate biodiversity because it's how we have life on the planet. You know, I've been hearing a lot from community members about, you know, vehicle camping on streets, in particular 6th Street over by Myrtle. And one of the main issues there too is, you know, trash and the sewage that they're putting into Cooper Gulch, unfortunately. So something we need to kind of explore of how to get a handle on that. Had some discussions about some issues with the docks, which you'll hear about later. Just, you know, aging infrastructure that needs to get replaced, and something that we'll have to deal with. We had a Redwood Coast Energy Authority meeting. Was that last week? And again, you know, wind energy is always a big topic. You know, BOEM, Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, is having meetings. I think they had a meeting with the Coastal Commission. I think that was yesterday. And we just keep moving along with wind energy. And yeah, and we have lots of meetings coming up this week. Joint Powers Authority, Cal City's meetings coming up. I don't know. Supposedly we're still going. But that should be really fun to go see our other compadres in city government. So I'm hoping we get to go to that in some fashion. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I kind of have just maybe a brief report. So a few meetings ago, I talked about working with McGuire regarding some of the trash cleanup. And so we did have a meeting with Caltrans, McGuire, the mayor, the county. And as you notice when you're driving to Arcata, the facility that was once there is now gone. Thank you to Caltrans and everybody involved in making that happen. That was a really great thing. As you know, or you may not know, but Caltrans, because of COVID, was not cleaning up any of the camps in their jurisdiction. And so it took meeting with, you know, the senator and getting that kind of thing on board before any of those cleanups could be done. So that was a really great win for us, I think. I'm back to work with students, and I have to tell you, it is so exhausting to have all these kids at school. It's crazy. But it's wonderful. And I just want to give a shout out to Eureka High, because it's very challenging to, I mean, I don't work at the other school, so I don't know how they're doing, but I know it's very challenging to have all these kids and the mask mandate and interactions, and kids don't want to wear their masks and that type of thing. And now they're offering testing twice a week. So staff is going again over and above what they normally have to do. And so I just really appreciate that that's happening, and that kids are safe. I mean, I'm sure there are probably cases. Why wouldn't there be? This is the state of the nation. I mean, it's not just but I appreciate all the dedication and hard work that our staff is doing at Eureka High. And speaking of back to school, my daughter is going to Santa Cruz. She's leaving this weekend to go to UC Santa Cruz. And I always said that when she went back to college, I would. So I actually am taking some online courses, not statistics, but moving forward with my degree. And I'm really excited about that. It's kind of interesting, but I'm excited. So anyway, I thought I'd share that with you guys because it's kind of a cool thing. And then lastly, September 21st, since we're not going to have a meeting, I'll just talk about it, is the United Nations International Day of Peace. And they always have a different theme, and you can look that up online. That started it was right after World War II. And I know that my former school, we celebrated it every year with a peace dove and a real big celebration with Veterans for Peace, and really trying to do and to teach peace in our society. And you know, as we all know, or maybe we don't, but peace begins with us. And so it's important, at least for me, to be accountable for my behavior and creating a peaceful environment with the people I'm around. And so it's just a great reminder for me to remember that this day is happening. And if you go on the website for the United Nations, you'll be able to find that, or just Google International Day of the Peace. They have a different theme every year, and it's really exciting. They have kids involved. It's just a really beautiful thing. especially in this time, you know, these times that we're having. So with that, thank you all for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. And with that, no gavel, but we are adjourned.